welcome. I'm so glad that you've made it here, whether you're watching this live with us or if you're watching it on the replay. We're really happy to have you here. Today is going to be a super awesome episode because it's an episode where everyone is going to share their favorite resources, whether we're talking about books, we're talking about software, maybe it's even just like a way to look at writing and your own writing process. Whatever it is, we would love for you to share. Any resources people share, we're going to keep a copy of so that we can put them in the comments later, so that if you want to come back, we'd absolutely love for you to rewatch the show, of course. But maybe you just need to really quickly, what was that link? I can't remember it. You don't have to like scan through, 2 hours to find where that link was. We're going to have it down below. So we hope that maybe you'll come back more than once to this episode, and that the next time we have an episode like this, maybe you'll think about sharing your own resources with us, because together as a community, we will improve. So without further ado, I would love to introduce to you the people who are also going to help me fill the airspace today. It is Carrie. Wonderful. Woohoo! Carrie is here. And Charlie. Yay, Charlie made it. And then you know him. I love him. It's my technical producer and brother, Tom. Yay. Welcome, everybody.
I waved and completely forgot I had turned my camera off and all the madness.
Oh, isn't that a mood and a half? It is now one of like the pitfalls I have of watching live streams is I'm so used to essentially seeing this kind of view that I'm like wave and I'm like, wait, nobody can literally see me. I'm in the chat. So how is everybody today? Are y'all doing well?
Yeah.
You showed up. I'm grateful. So it's not yet another one of just me and Tom being awkward together. We will be that, but also.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The allergies have done violence on the inside of my head again today. And I feel like if I took one of the drumsticks and hit my head just right, you would hear it ring like a bell. Just ring.
I have to admit, I definitely woke up a little bit congested today. And I am definitely aware of how many boxes of tissue I own.
I was going through tissues really bad over the weekend at work because the tree pollen has been horrendous, that even people without like diagnosed allergies have been sniffling and.
Yeah,
and can I just say, this is not nature's fault. This is our fault, and we did this to ourselves because when they decided that they were wanting trees to be pretty and all over the place, they selectively chose male trees because they wouldn't drop fruit everywhere. And so there are just selectively so many more male trees all around.
Charlie, stop. I actually already saw this on the Twitter thread, and that one's not true. The bot just went over the history of this one.
I think it's a little true.
To the documents when they did it in our town.
I think it's a little true in that, like, they choose not to have fruit-bearing trees as their decorative trees because so much of society in America hates drunk squirrels.
On the other hand, there's also the part of now the one that you can go over about that is the ginkgo. Oh God.
Also, we have a lot of poplar trees around here, and female poplar trees do ginkgo-ish things.
Oh, and they do have a smell, don't they? Like it's a.
Oh yeah.
And they killed them off.
Yeah, like because
we're out in the middle of the hollers.
Where we are here in South Mississippi in the Pine Belt, poplar trees were also very popular for a couple decades, and it's only the males, so the male trees looking for love in all the wrong places.
Right? My face doesn't love you. Leave me alone.
Amorous trees. Amorous trees, y'all.
It's just, if only our cars don't show up yellow in the morning.
There's no helping this.
Yeah, it's real bad when your car is parked in the garage
and it's
still yellow.
What's really fun is we have a screened-in deck because mosquitoes, and we went out to see if we could see the eclipse last night. And the first thing we had to do was very carefully pat the screen so that the pollen would fall off of it, hopefully on the outside, because there was this weird yellow haze that was like all we could see. It was almost a window of yellow haze where all of the pollen had just
I wanted to stay up for that so bad.
Yeah, we had clouds. So
yeah, we
clouds,
probably did too.
Dry lightning. Lots of fun. Then just the clouds opened up, so much rain.
Yes, we could hear the trees being shook last night. Today, right now, it's 88 degrees and 52% humidity, so only a limited number of our fellow writers would survive down here.
I don't want to know what the humidity is outside right now. I went back to the office to get the books for the show and tell, and I was surprised that mushrooms weren't growing on them.
Well,
so
I have Your Town in my phone app, my weather app, and it says it's 81 degrees and 31% humidity in your neck. Which is still doing better than ours, 88 degrees and 53% humidity.
Oh, that's no one's friend.
Megan says 65 degrees, mostly sunny. Allergies are decent. Wonderful weather. Lucky you.
You're not going to trick me into moving to San Diego. I see you trying, though.
Carrie, how's your weather?
I'm pulling up the app right now.
Okay. Hello, CB. Hello, Laura. Carrie's in the chat doing double duty because she does know I like to say it.
It's fun to say.
Tom has already put the prompt in of links and names of your favorite sites, apps, and books. So, resources. It's a thing. I think this is my personal theory, and of course, anybody disagrees, let me know. But my personal theory is there are so many resources that claim to help writers that are not necessarily actually helpful, at least to a more general audience. But that is one of the reasons why writers so enjoy sharing their favorite resources or the ones that were very helpful for them. Is because it's not like maybe with other industries, like for the most part, the software I found to help teach you how to code, pretty straightforward. Some of it is more designed for younger kids, but overall it's still fairly accurate. Yes, this is how you code. But with writing, it's like, no, you cannot trust. Also, this whole crap with, what is it called? Low content Kindle books. Oh, yes. God, how I want them all to burn in hell.
Because, first of all, just because you have written a book does not mean you know how to write a book. And I feel like that needs to be said over and over again on repeat. Because whether it is an indie trying to get rich quick by, let me tell you my 10 secrets to blah, 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 or if it's a major mainstream traditionally published author who is now cashing in on their name. Because I have read so many books that are like famous thriller writer on how to write thrillers. And it's not how to write thrillers. It's a memoir about how lucky they were to get published.
Yes.
I learned nothing about the actual craft of writing. Why did you do this?
I will say I loved Rita Mae Brown's book on how to write because her first chapter is my editor and publisher demanded I put in a chapter about my own writing journey. So here you go. I was born. And she's like, I didn't want to tell you this, but my publisher says it has to be a little bit longer. So here we go. So then after college, and it's just these little snarky comments in this chapter. It's like, so glad they included it. But agree, it's not necessary. Her book is very much a technical book of here how you do it. And it's not just get butt in seat because that makes me mad. It is more than butt must be in seat. Y'all, I sit all the time, but guess what? I don't write all the time. I need something a little bit more meaty about actually writing and working on it. And her book does go over that. But again, that first chapter of just forced snark. How dare they write about myself? I write about like detective stories with talking foxes, and you have now demanded that I tell about my back history? No! I love it.
That's how you know she's a real writer. I'm just saying that right there.
Of like, what does it matter about me? It should not matter about me. This is not my story. This is just, hey, I do the work. I will tell you about how I do the work. Because that's what you're interested in. You don't care who I am as long as what I have to tell you is quality information. So, for instance, one of the things I most love about Rita Mae Brown's book is her bibliography list of every single book in her office is twice as long as her first chapter, the chapter she was forced to write about herself. And even though it is very dated, since this book came out in the 90s, so it's really before the internet was really going, and most of these resources now, something like them are available online. I still find just having an incredibly complete list of every single book. It was like almost 2,000 books in her library. Having it listed and correctly cited so that I could at least look them up and see, oh, is this on Gutenberg now? That I found very helpful, and hardly any authors do that. No, I want you to give me a full and complete list of all your workbooks. Everything in your work office. I would like a list of, okay, thank you so much. Even though some of it is silly. I don't care. Put in that joke book. If it's in your office, I want a list.
So on the list of books that were not helpful as far as like teaching me how to write, but made me feel less alone as a writer, I have to put like number one on my list was Terry Brooks's Sometimes the Magic Works. This is the first book that I ever read, and I had read a lot of books on writing up until this point, that made me feel not alone. He is the same kind of visual, imaginative writer that I am, where it's basically trying very hard to keep up while watching a movie and writing it down as fast as I can, because the story is literally playing out in my imagination in front of me. And so few writers that I had read books from on the craft of writing talk about that as a thing that they experience. And as I've learned from knowing a lot of writers, it's not exactly a common occurrence for writers to write like that. So I felt so like insane. Like apparently other people have grand ideas, write outlines, and are brilliant, and I play with my imaginary friends all day. And I did not know that other writers did it until I read this book. And it made that in some ways was one of the most helpful books that I read as a young writer, just because not feeling alone made me feel like I could not only do this, but if a very successful writer like Terry Brooks wrote this way, maybe I could get somewhere with my fiction too. So this is one of the few books on my list that isn't like technically of help. But if you are a very visual writer and your stories just kind of burden you, like they just won't leave your mind. They're like Athena inside your skull clawing at you until you get them out. And you feel very alone in that experience. This is such a wonderful book. And it actually is more about the relationship between him and his grandson, who also has this shared experience, and how they kind of came to reveling in the play of writing again, and how his grandson taught him how to just enjoy the writing for the writing's sake. And this book is really close to my heart for that. So if that's something that people need.
That's cool. Tom has very generously put out the cover for the Rita Mae Brown book I was talking about, starting from scratch. I like that it also has a cat on there.
They all have a cat. Her memoir has a cat. There's
Look,
always
I'm
a
just
cat.
saying, she did list, by the way, among all the things that you most likely need as a writer. She listed a table, she listed writing implements, possibly a word processor. She did list a cat. And I appreciate that she just that level of honesty, but also humor in there of like, look, and she then, I believe she has like a solid paragraph or two explaining how a cat is useful to a writer. Including wonderful distraction. Someone to remind you that every 4 hours you probably should get up, move around, maybe go to the bathroom, take a walk. And a cat will do that for you. A cat will do that for you every half hour, whether you want it or not.
Very true.
And it's like, ma'am, you have made some excellent sense here. Now, I will admit that I very much enjoy it. I prefer the book as an audiobook because it's very enjoyable to just it's written in such a conversational style that I can do other things while listening. But I have also originally I read it as a book print, and I enjoy the print version as a reference. But yeah, the audiobook definitely won me over.
CB, if you're allergic to cats, might I recommend a Tamagotchi because it's the same kind of regular annoyance.
Good point.
I was just going to just get a stuffed animal and keep one on your desk.
Pay attention to me right now, Human. I don't care what you're doing.
Did you know you can get those little cat toys that purr and sleep? And they make little purring sounds when they're sleeping. And they feel like fur when you pet them? Look, I'm just throwing that out there. Or you could just feed ham to the outside cat and then she eventually will bring you her kittens. See my Discord server. Caught videos. After there's a second kitten that that wasn't around because that was the tabby that was hissing at me. Very fierce kitty. I will eventually win you over with ham. I know the way to a cat's heart. I am part cat.
I see Megan brought up The Emotional Craft of Writing by Craft of Fiction by Donald Moss. I love Donald Moss's books. So many of them have been helpful.
That's one of the ones Laura sent me.
Fire and Fiction by Donald Moss is my go-to editing book because it's nothing but exercises of, so you've read this part of your story and it's boring. How is it boring? What is it trying to do? Try these exercises to make it better.
This is one of the ones Laura sent me. I haven't read it yet.
Make you bigger, baby. Hold on. Okay.
There you
go. That is a really good book, and so many of his books are very good. They're very helpful, and they're extremely practical. They have like exercises that were actually doable, not just like,
oops, sorry.
I don't know, I have to make this into an exercise now, which I feel like a lot of writing exercises in books are like, I don't know, now do the thing.
We've also, I'm starring the ones that are talking about recommendations, and that was what I was trying to catch up on. Megan mentions there is a system she really likes called Airtable, and put in a referral link there. And Laura mentioned that Discord servers that are for writers have been very helpful for her for finding beta readers. And I agree. I have actually found several writing Discord servers that have been very helpful and supportive. Not all of them have been supportive, but you just figure, you go around, and then if somebody's
join one, interact. If it doesn't suit you, bye.
Yeah, just leave. Yeah, you don't have to stay where you don't feel welcome. Laura also points out another great resource for naming things, even if it's just for inspiration. We all know her. We love her. It's fantasynamegenerators.com. Oh, she's wonderful.
Way too much time on that site.
That is one of my tabs that is up all the time.
Yes. And Laura also mentions the writing craft book, The Anatomy of Prose by Sasha Black. Changed her life. Do you have that one?
That is another one she sent me.
Let me put.
I also have the workbook.
Very nice.
And on Sasha Black, I also have 10 Steps to Hero and 13 Steps to Evil.
Very nice.
I've read this one, and it's so good.
Very nice. So, aside from just jumping in, which of course we're all really good at, should we try to do this by sections, or how do we just chaos? We could just do chaos if y'all just want to get like, hey, chaos there.
Talk to someone who is not me. I am an agent of chaos who married a chaos demon, so...
Yes, I have met your chaos demon. I agree. Hello, chaos demon. I'll see you later tonight.
Yeah, say I'm just taking notes. I've got a few of my own. I'll add them in later.
Okay.
We can watch Glory groan as I mentioned some of them.
I'm not. What? No, I'm supportive. What do you? Which?
You know that YouTube video set of that?
That is more of my own personal problems and limitations. That is not about the quality of the referral. It's just me.
I just said I would watch you groan. I did not say why. I just said you would groan. Listen to that. Listen to that. Can you tell we are related? We both have the same exasperated sigh.
The actual size. Yes. Okay, so we could talk about books first. We could talk about software. We could talk about, honestly, like what Tom was talking about is actually YouTube coursework.
If you actually want to hear real professionals tell you how to do stuff in a professional way. I know it's novel.
How dare you?
No, it's me more of these. So many of the people who say, "Hey, I've got the secrets," are ones who in no way have any real professional experience. They are just. That's what I was more referring to.
So, like, okay, that does bring up. So, why don't we talk about that? Of how to tell somebody is BSing you. And that does go with the low content books and crap like that. So there is this thing called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. And I love the little sine wave on those. Let's see. As we know, visual aids are so powerful. Yes, I am that teacher. Deal with it. I will always be that teacher. And yes, I got the degree and the licensure for it. Okay.
She really did.
All right. So here's how this goes. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Play this a little bit. Okay. So the basic idea is up here we have confidence and here we have knowledge. And every person, when they, know nothing about an industry or an area, like say writing, they all start here, right here. This is, the level of just, I absolutely no idea how do words work, whatever. And so there's no confidence and there's no knowledge. That seems like an appropriate place to be when you know nothing about a particular area of expertise. Okay. And then as you get a little knowledge, what we found has happened is the confidence shoots up. So they're still quite ignorant, but they're super confident. Mm-hmm. They're the most confident they're ever going to be. Is when they know just enough to be dangerous. We've heard that phrase, right? He knows just enough to be dangerous. And this is where they are the most confident in their life. And then when they get a little bit more knowledge, this is where their confidence is very low. Relatively speaking, it's not as low as when they knew nothing, but it's pretty low. And then as their expertise continues, they gain more and more knowledge and experience. Experience is a type of knowledge. We see how they are more confident, but they're never as confident as they were when they knew just enough to be dangerous. And that is what is called the Dunning-Kruger Effect.
And the nice thing is, modern marketing has given us some buzzwords to look for in the titles of the courses, classes, and books to help you spot this easily. If you're looking at a writing course and it uses the words quick success, lots of dollar signs, like they rarely say money, they just put like a whole bunch of dollar signs on the cover of it. those are probably just scams to get your money.
I like this one, which is for online pet health, which is concerning. But it's the peak. They call this the height of confidence, the peak of Mount Stupid, and the valley of despair, and then the slope of enlightenment. I love it. And the plateau of sustainability. I mean, they're not necessarily wrong, though. So think about anything that you're pretty good at, that you've spent years slowly but surely learning and honing your own knowledge about, whether we're talking about cooking or maybe laundry washing or driving a car or whatever we're talking about, that you have a skill in, whether you wanted to have it or not. You now know so much more about, well, I know not to trust when the red towel says color fast, they lying to me.
They're always lying.
Whatever it is, like, you have learned the hard way. And so, again, I just want to point this out of, yeah, you are somewhere between the valley of despair and the slope of enlightenment. So think about that when you are judging writing books or any kind of books, saying, hey, we could teach this expertise.
And if you ever want to know that how true this is for humans in general, go look up the statistics on parachuting and when do people die from parachuting.
It is not usually their first jump.
It's not their 10th jump.
They're still very cautious. It is the Mount Stupid.
It is the 500th
like,
jump.
I know what I'm doing. Don't help me. Everybody knows that toddler. All right? Everyone knows that toddler or that little kid. No, don't help me. I can do this on my own. And then you're like, they are going to.
And after about 1,500 to 2,000 jumps, it drops off to just like beginners. It's very rare. It's incredibly rare. But that 500 jump, so many people.
So that's what we're talking about when people talk about hubris. The hubris of the young, or somebody mansplaining, or
Oh God!
Yes, the clarinet would definitely be a skill. Absolutely.
And we all, and those in music, all know exactly what kind of clarinet playing CB is talking about. Of the hubris, it hurts. It hurts everyone else.
People who split their own lip, thinking they know how to manage their reeds. So let's see. Other Charlie, I hope you don't mind that we say that. We say that with love. I'm in a class now, but I wanted to stop by and drop by that, like, oh, thank you, sweetie. I hope class goes well.
Yeah, it feels weird to say Canadian Charlie and American Charlie.
A little bit, but we could do
I like
Canadian
to say
Charlie. Charlie, should we do that? We'll just do that. Charlie.
Two E's and they're spaced out. So
like we're calling them in. Calling in the cows. Charlie. Actually, kind of reminds me of that Persian wedding I went to where all the women called in the bride and they were ululating. But not everybody could actually get that little ooh going. So it was just everybody was laughing at some of the ladies. But anyhow, so I just wanted to point that out about, like, that is something that I think why other writers are always like, oh, tell me what are the books and the resources that actually help you, is because I don't know if all other industries are like that, but I will definitely say more than most other industries that I have been in, writing seems to be inundated with a lot of fools, a lot of people living on Mount Stupid, writing books, writing essays, wasting my damn time. Versus like librarianship. When I was a librarian, I mean, there were a couple fools, but not that many. When I was teaching elementary school, really, you could tell really quick who was a fool. And people would honestly, teachers are very honest with each other. So there's a plenty of people going, you don't know what you're talking about. You need to take this down. Like, you are just hurting other teachers and you are therefore hurting children. So there wasn't as much of these people who will lead you astray with a waste of your time, money, and energy like I see in writing. I see this so much more in writing. I'm like, do pilots deal with this? Do rocket scientists get this much BS? I don't know, but writing is rift with.
I think it's that part of where where there is licensure and where there is not. That's one of the nice things about licensure is that it means people have to meet minimum standards.
Good point.
It's kind of like, the pros and cons about, what do you call it? But, is there licensure requirements in your state or city for working with hair? And to some degree, yes, people can be self-taught in a lot of ways, and some licensure is discriminatory. But on the other hand, there is what is the minimum standard so they're competent? You don't want people leaving certain products in your hair too long or using products that are not meant for your type of hair.
Scar you permanently.
And you can
chemical burn is nothing to joke about.
Yeah.
And you can also see it really strongly the other way around in a lot of institutionally trained chefs, for example, that have a lot of very valuable information that is not practical to working on a line. There's two things, and that really hinder us as writers is there is a very steep learning curve that we may want to go on for what is perfect grammar, how are sentences properly structured, how are paragraphs, chapters, all of that structural work that we can go on. That isn't teaching you how to write down what you're writing. And there's a very big difference between those structural things and knowing why plot works, which is better than how a plot works. Because once you understand why it works, you can start playing around with it and having fun with it. If you're only learning the what to do, the formulas, the step 1, step 2, step 3, and you're done, that leads to another, I don't know what it is, but it's like a cousin of Dunning-Kruger, where it's I can do the bare minimum thing that has been required of me. Huzzah. I am the best. I can write 5,000 books in a week because I just fill out my Mad Lib and story. That's a whole other road.
And there's something to be said for both designs, but it's learning the art and learning the craft.
Yes.
And people do get very confused about these, about what is art, what is craft, what is the benefit of each.
Yes.
And in the end, you really have to combine them, even, for anything, even something as truly craft-like as, PC repair. It's still a certain degree in art because you have to know what kind of phrases to then go look for what could cause these problems. But it's a craft because you have to know what the diagnostic sets in what order you go through. And writing is the same way, where you need to know both parts of the craft. How do you construct grammar that makes sense to other people? And art of what is a novel way to phrase this that somebody's not expecting so they enjoy this.
And I have read those quote unquote writing books that confuse the two and are if your grammar is not perfect, your story is bad. Guess what? Your draft will always have bad grammar in it because it's draft.
It's draft.
Always.
This is not helpful information.
We do not speak in perfect grammar.
This is something to bring up later when talking about editing, not writing.
Also, grammar is ever evolving. It is a living language. So grammar now is not what grammar was 20 years ago. And it's certainly not what grammar was 40 years ago, as I've had to explain to certain older editors of the commas are now offensive. I have to highly pare down your comma quota here. It's no, they don't use commas like this. And they're no, but this is correct. It was, but you see, we have a living language and it has evolved and you have been left behind. So you have to now adjust to the audience of now, the readers of now, who are following different grammar rules and norms. Yeah, cultural norms.
As Stevie points out, as everyone thinks of the, what do we call it in America? The Starbucks effect of how do you even spell a name? And there's Stevie talking about, how only one of the person besides her spelled the name the saintly way.
Spoken like someone went to Catholic school.
There are 20 ways to spell Carrie.
Oh, God, yes.
I figured it out one day in geometry class.
I will never forget that episode of Freakonomics podcast.
You can guess my grade.
Yeah. Where they went over...
Geometry's my favorite. Okay, anyway.
What was the current number based on just...
unique. What is the
unique?
Different ways unique has been spelled as a name
On a birth
in
certificate.
California hospitals as far as new baby born? And it was like over 200. I think it was like approaching 230.
Yeah.
In the 1 or 2 years of their research. So it was all the uniques before up until that point, and it's now more of how is it possible to have this many variations in the English language for the word unique? But there is. People are amazing and creative. And also the English language allows that kind of creative spelling, unlike other languages. Not all languages are like this. So some of it is English, but let me point out, we can complain all we want about English for being this so open-ended, but this is one of the reasons why English is a major creative language to have medium, to have stories in, to have movies and TV shows, is because English allows this incredible volume of creativity that other languages simply do not allow. So for instance, I'd like to point out, in English, we've got, and y'all, everybody can chime in who remembers, there's future tense, there's future perfect tense, there's past tense, past perfect tense, blah, blah, blah. All these tenses. Russia only has present tense. Everything happens right now in Russian. And what we say is what we think, and what we think is what we say. So if you only have now, every injustice done to you or your family is right now in Russian, versus in English, there is all the things that happened in the past, but as we know in the Deep South, there's also all the things that could have done in a separate future that was never going to happen.
Subjunctive tense is our favorite.
But English allows this, and that is in fact what is the theory behind why there's so much creativity in stories in English that we just don't see reflected in most other languages, is because English allows you to talk about your now as an alternative to what it could have been.
Past perfect future tense.
Oh God, do you know how much that hurts?
This could be a contradiction, but in English it is not.
And that is actually where this creativity and why we're talking about writing. The theory is that's actually where that's coming from, is because our language allows that kind of conversation.
Oh, sorry. No, I was wrong. The one that hurts me is the past perfect future present tense.
It allows that kind of creativity so that you could daydream. And then if you daydream long enough, you could maybe I should write this down, or maybe I should tell it to someone else. And if they like it, then I'll write it down. Hence why we have a plethora. Why there are people, and I'm not talking about just a few languages. There are people of other major languages, including I've had several people who are native Mandarin speakers tell me they learned English just for the stories, y'all. Because even Mandarin, they felt, did not allow this a level of creativity. And they just wanted good stories. Humans are wired for narrative.
Hindi has adapted many entire phrases and sentences from English into its vocabulary because they allow certain things to be said easier and more directly.
Yes, I've noticed that, where they actually even use English words
or
English phrases, because it's just easier to say it that way than to say it in their own language. So they're actually speaking a blend.
Here, I have heard this line said at a family Thanksgiving.
This one?
Yes.
Thanksgiving in the Deep South, y'all.
Yep.
I'm going to have to be offended by what I am going to have to be offended by what your ancestors could have done. I'm sorry, what? You don't have to. You really don't have to be offended by what they did not do, but you think they were capable of. This is pure fantasy. Thank you.
But this is a regular argument in the Deep South.
Not an exaggeration. Yes, many times.
There's an actual line said regularly, at least every 3 to 5 years, in the Deep South at every family get-together.
And they don't see the contradiction.
No.
It's perfectly fine.
So yeah, when people talk about but the grammar has to be perfect, like, we do not speak in perfect grammar. Grammar is evolving. That's part of it being a living language.
Mm-hmm.
You're just trying to make sure
and
other
depending,
people...
like CB said, where you are in the world.
Yep.
Right. Which is
American
why
English is different. British English is different. Australian English is different.
Indian English is very different in its grammar, I've noticed, because I end up reading medical journal articles. So one's medical journalists are writing about medical studies coming in, and those tend to be, for some reason, written by people in subcontinent India. And like their grammar is just different enough where sometimes I have to reread a line and go, wait, what did they mean? Because English is so flexible, it could go either way, and I have to like make sure I understand. It is different.
I was listening over the weekend on Twitter. Twitter has some new things you can now do, but they had a sort of conference on Twitter of people part of the Igbo diaspora discussing how to preserve their culture in English, mostly. I mean, we might call it like is it Pidgin English? What's the one that's like, you still revert to your first language when you don't have the...
Are you talking about more of a blend?
A patois or a Creole?
Sort of a patois almost, of English mixed with, both Igbo as well as, I can't remember what the primary language of Nigeria is. But I could still understand about 50 to 70% of it. And yeah, their grammar is just by nature very different. Their needs for grammar are different.
Yeah, a lot of the over the weekend we were talking about our summer playlists, and I was sharing several songs that are definitely going to be on mine, and a lot of them were in Nigerian patois. Mm-hmm. And the fun thing is, if you're not paying close attention, your mind will blank out the words you don't know, mm-hmm. and you will still understand what's being said. And it's kind of a fun experience.
Oh God, the differences between English, Scottish, and Irish English.
I'm not touching that.
And we're not even going to get into the fact that we also have Scots English, which is a completely different language. Mm-hmm. It'll make your brain burn. I highly recommend every...
The one I was mostly hearing them refer to for Nigeria was Yoruba.
Okay.
Was the main one. Is like the fancy language. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you must be learned if you're using Yoruba.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm most familiar with Yoruba and Igbo, as far as other than English spoken in Nigeria. I, for a while, had looked at... okay, this has nothing to do with anything I'm still going to tell you. So the reason why I know this is years ago, I was looking for a university to get my doctorate from. And I had noticed that most universities have very boring doctoral gown outfit systems, but not all. And it was mostly because at my bachelor's graduation, there was somebody who graduated from some university in Vermont, and he had instead this gorgeous burgundy gown with a tam o' shanty. And I was like, oh, look at him. Because the professors all have to parade as well at most universities. And I was like, I couldn't decide on where to go. So I started looking at what are all the doctoral gowns at every university in the world. And that is how I found out Nigeria has some fantastic outfits. And so I seriously considered getting my doctorate in Nigeria. But anyway, that's a whole nother matter. So yes, that's why I know more than you'd think about Nigeria. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. I know. It's weird. None of them had what I wanted, though, but it was all nother matter. I'll talk about that.
I love the distinction that Tom made between the arts and the crafts, because 3 of the books that I pulled out, which are kind of the foundation books to me as an author, 2 of them are about the art of writing, and 1 is about the craft of writing. And these two were both written by Saul Stein. So Stein on Writing and How to Grow a Novel. These books taught me how to conceptualize a story. Like what is a story? How should I think about a story? When I'm just mulling it over in my brain in that weird nether region between, is this an idea? Is this a book? Is this a short story? What am I dealing with? These especially this one, Stein on Writing, really gave me a lot of tools to understand how to break down a concept and really understand like the bare bones like art of writing, like how do you zero in on what you want your story to be about and make it into something that is much more artful and less just, I'm going to tell these people stories. And I highly recommend them. The stories that he shares in here of working with like Ilya Kazan and a lot of other great writers, they're definitely worth reading. But I probably would have never finished a book without Evan Marshall's Marshall Plan.
The Marshall Plan.
Because this taught me something that no other writing book does. Discipline.
Talk about
how to get yourself from start to finish. That's the real craft of writing, is sitting down, understanding how to break your story up into scenes, how to break your scenes up into chapters, how to understand what a POV character is, how many of them you should have. Are you putting in too many, too few? Like, I finished my first book that was not a horrendous garbage fire. And I mean that with love to the first 4 books that I wrote, but they are not salvageable. They are not. You could not, like, the greatest editorial team on earth could not take any of those 4 books and make it something legible that any human would ever want to experience. I wrote them with great passion and love, and dear God, I will. Why? But it's getting to the point where you understand why it is that you're doing what you're doing and some of the basic rudiments of how to do it. And those are the things that go together to make, for me, a well-rounded writer. And for anybody who has not read the Stein books, I highly recommend them.
And real quick, so the difference between art and craft is repeatable. If you follow these steps, you will get this product. Art is, if I follow this step, I will get something like this, but it's never the same. It's never the same twice. But it is something I enjoy.
It's not reproducible.
It's not really reproducible.
That is the word you're looking for, that we are all looking for, is it reproducible? Because in sales and in teaching, I had to make everything reproducible because that is the only way to sell, and that's the only way to apparently sell knowledge. It's to make it reproducible.
Art is not directly reproducible. That is why it is art. That's why we enjoy every new novel is because to a certain degree it is art. But we like the craft part to make sure that what I read is what the writer was trying to get across to me.
And that's what I really enjoyed about these books, is the main thing that I still talk about, even when I'm doing my writing streams, is he changes the definition of conflict in a story to this concept of having a crucible, where you find 2 things in a container that is making them simultaneously want to move together and is forcing them apart. And having that as the central idea of what makes conflict and good conflict for a story, that's not a formula where you just sit back and go, item 1, item 2, crucible, done. That's really an art of sitting back and trying to figure out, how are we holding them together? Why are they still here? Why didn't they just realize maybe we should just get divorced and go our separate ways? Which is how a lot of like murder mysteries should have ended. Like, let's be honest, like, the answer was divorce. Just get divorced. It's fine. But you have to then come up with something to make the story stick. Well, what kept them from getting the divorce? What kept them together so that eventually one of them murders the other one and we have a story?
Money.
Often. But it's not necessarily as easily repeatable as any of the, like, This one's literally, here's how to structure a scene. Here's how to structure an outline. Here's how to work your way through it. Here's how to figure out a rough idea of how many POV characters you should have and what all of those words mean. That is repeatable every time.
And the whole point is you now have tools in your toolbox.
Yep.
Because you go, I want to have this kind of outcome. I want this kind of feel in my scene. Well, you go to your toolbox and you go, which of these will give me that effect? And that is where you combine your craft with your art. Your craft provides the tools. The art decides when to use those tools.
I have a pretty hefty stack. I'll try and go through quickly. This one is the making of the movie of The Princess Bride. And I just chose it because it's Princess Bride is my favorite movie ever. And Bestie got it signed for me. But it's just, I don't know. It's The Princess Bride. Of course, I have Stephen King's On Writing. And I never take anyone's advice as the be-all, end-all. You know, it's always good to pick and choose what works and tweak it to suit you. This is a good, this is one writer's journey through his career, and take it or leave it. Also, the audiobook is surprisingly entertaining.
Also, other ways you can use these books. That book enrages me in certain chapters to a point where I just get apoplectic, and I'm just like, so Stephen, I'm going to show you or prove you wrong. And we'll just put on the audiobook so I can hear Stephen King's voice telling me the thing that makes me angry, which then makes me go right.
Yay, mediocrity. It's so inspiring.
Which is a valid way to use a book like this too.
I also have a crap ton of prompt books for when I'm just like, I don't know. Laura, if you're watching, I have this one too. I got this one for Christmas. Yeah, they're mostly fantasy prompts. I have Writing About Magic by this author as well. She's got a ton of books.
I like Rain Hall's books.
Yeah, they're so good.
And they're zero fat. They are just to the point, what you came there to get.
Yeah, look at this. He's skinny. So, yeah. I want her whole collection. This one,
Phoebe, I'm just trying my best not to shame you or anything, but it's just there's just part of me is like,
and it is okay to have not watched The Princess Bride and to have no interest in ever watching The Princess Bride. It is okay.
Just be careful about going to fantasy conventions. Never say that out public.
Hey, yes. It is okay. We don't all have to watch or read the same books to be friends. Go on.
This one I started reading and then, I'm exhausted mom, so I never got to finish it. But yeah, this is a book on outlining. And the title was funny. I think Sasha was interviewing the author on her podcast. And I know in traditional publishing, this is not a recognized age category, but it should be. Writing about new adult fiction, which is what I categorize, at least my contemporary one. Because it's not YA, she's not in high school, she's not
Didn't Amazon finally make that one of the choices when you're picking age groups now? I think that's one of the age targets now. I know they were talking about adding it. I don't know if they actually did or not.
In indie publishing, it's still recognized. It's just in traditional publishing, they're like, no, that's YA. But if
once Amazon puts it as a target, as its target market, then traditional publishing will come around.
Maybe. This one I read a long time ago.
What is it? Writing the Fiction series?
Yes.
Okay. By Karen S.
Weiser?
Weiser?
Weisner?
Yes.
Somebody that publishing firm should be examined for what fonts they chose.
Yes.
I said it.
Recruit Charlie.
I'm so glad my camera was off.
And then this is one I just started reading.
Like the Dark?
Night. Mm-hmm. It's another one Laura sent me.
Who is it by?
There's a bunch of contributing.
Oh, okay. It's
writers.
like an anthology.
Yeah, it's an essay anthology. I was so tired yesterday. I got through the preface and then fell asleep.
Like you're a
But I've started reading it.
That is absolutely a valid way to read books. Is I read a little and I fell asleep. So before we move on, how about we take a bio break? Now is a wonderful time. Make sure you have something to drink or something to snack on. Yeah, deliciousness. Or maybe it's time for a little walk around, or perhaps a check-in with your bladder. I'm throwing that out there. And when we come back, more of the same. I have a literal, I have books upon books. Tom has recommendations, and we haven't even started talking about software yet.
I have a bunch of both.
So much.
So,
yes,
yeah.
we have so much. And I hope you in the chat as well have tons to share with us. And so we will see y'all back here in approximately 10 whole minutes. Beepity beep. Beepity beep. Beepity beep. Here comes the rain. Here comes the rain again. Like a tragedy. All right. All right.
And we're back.
Yes. We're here. We made it to the second hour. Woohoo!
I had my headphones off and I was very absorbed apparently in organizing my office.
Yay, hyperfocus. It'll get things done sometimes.
Sometimes.
Hello, Jules. Jules is stopping by for after the grocery store and before making dinner. Excellent. Good stuff. How did everybody's little break go? I feel refreshed.
I had, what did you call this? Tomato braised cod with pasta?
Cod?
Tomato butter cod with pasta.
Okay, that is very different than what I originally thought I
Yes.
heard.
I was being corrected in my not including the word butter. And
I thought I heard the word tomato braised, and that's was like, wait, what?
I thought I also heard tomato braised pod.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
What are you doing with those peas?
edamame is your friend.
That's exactly what I would expect a soybean farmer to say.
Well, if only Laura was here, I'd go, well, there's your next, horror story. The soybean farmer and, the body snatchers.
Oh, too bad the whole trend is over, because that would have been great to write a series of soy boy horror novels back when that was like an insult on the internet.
Soy boy.
Man, missed that opportunity only now just thinking about it. Dang.
Darn. Laura's like, I'm here.
I'm just saying, you could really have some fun with, the many different types of soy products.
No. Okay, no. Here, I got it. Okay, it's a soybean farmer who's raising soy boys in the back of the attic shed. I don't know, somewhere. The seed shed. How about that? And he's really like raising soy boys, growing soy boys back there. And they're all going to take over the hipster. I don't know. Maybe they like suck the life out of hipsters. I don't know. Something. They suck all the coolness out. Maybe they want to
take over the lives of hipsters.
Who knows?
Soy boys, the natural predators of hipsters.
There we go. It's terrible.
Well, we do have a theory that veganism will lead to the zombie apocalypse. So
here, just have a little vegan milk. It's good for you.
You're gonna crave flesh, and then society collapses. Do you know how hard it is to find your oat milk when there's no society?
Are you threatening them, Master?
Yes, I am.
It is.
I can't tell if this would be better as a supernatural or an alien horror story.
Out of the glowing fields. Oh my god. Oh, so silly.
We just need to fill you up with tofu. And then we can start the conversion.
So I guess the farmer's raising them to be cannibals?
I mean, isn't that where all history is eventually leading? If history has taught us anything, the end of all civilizations is cannibalism. So
many complications.
We always get to zombies in the end.
It's either that or Nazis, so I'll take zombies.
Yeah. I mean, if you got to pick between really weird, obnoxious fanboy cults, sure.
Yeah, I'll take soy boys. And on that note, okay. All right.
I almost completely off the rails with a whole bunch of J-style questions, but I will stop.
All right, let's see. I have kind of a unusual resource. It's not unusual. It's just our solution to it. Do not listen to what is obviously the incredible hot mess express that I live among. That is not something to be concerned about. But before I could afford a laptop, this was what I used. So originally it wasn't this one, it was the smaller one.
The 8-inch.
Yeah, the 8-inch tablet. And we bought for $20 on Amazon this Bluetooth keyboard. And you can actually see this is where the tablet can go. And it runs on batteries. And it uses very little of the batteries. Like it doesn't chug batteries. You can actually have it hooked up to 3 different devices. And it's just have a keyboard for it. So this was how I was in 2018 and 2019. This was how I was actually writing. I was using Google. Hello, Joe. I was using Google Drive for the word processing.
Well, Google Docs.
Google Docs. Well, I mean, within Google Drive, it's Google Docs. And using the keyboard for typing. And that's how I wrote a bunch of the things that I now have. Is that way. What was the original, the smaller tablet? Do you remember what we spent on that?
The original one, I think we got it on deal, and it was like $50-$60.
That's what I was thinking. It was like $59 or $58. It was a Thanksgiving deal,
which they do every year.
Yeah, they do it every year. So I was using the smaller 8 or 9-inch one, and then this cost $20. And so for less than $100, I had a very usable word processor. And that was how I was originally typing my stuff for like about 1.5 years, 2 years, because I didn't have a laptop. I didn't get this laptop I am streaming from now till that first $600 payout everybody got at the start of the plague. And that was how, because Tom had found this laptop for right around that amount. So that's how we were able to get it. But I just wanted to share this. Like, yes, the case. I also got the case. The case did cost also $20, but I know me, and I knew I needed a case for this, or I would break it very quickly.
Mm.
The case is not necessary, but the case is awesome. It does have a little pocket, and it's hard. I knew I needed a hard one versus a soft bound case because, y'all don't know me that well, but I need protective things. This tablet cover is made for children. Can you tell? Because it's got cat ears. But you know what? Does it look cracked? No, it's in good shape. So that was my use. Also, you can type from it. You can open up the case and just keep the keyboard in it. And so that's what I actually would do to also give me a little bit of surface. So I just wanted to share that even for people with like middle school kids where they need a word processor, but they just don't have the money, or they don't know that they really want to trust an 11-year-old with a $2,000 laptop. And I totally get that. To which I say, hey, did you know you could use a kid's tablet and a keyboard? It has a handle. And at least they could do their word processing, their basic editing in there. And they can just use the family computer in the living room for research, and then they go type up on theirs. So they feel a certain level of autonomy, but also they have the resources they need without necessarily more than one kid jockeying for access to the resources. So whether we're talking about adults typing or children, I would like to recommend this as a possible way to have, simple word processing. Also, you can turn the internet off on these kind of tablets. And if you yourself need that of, hey, I don't need the internet, it is a distraction. Because there is an offline version of Google Docs that you can type in.
Also on Android, they've got a couple of free Office apps you can also use. Again, they don't require the internet.
It'll sit. You can sit it up this way. You can sit it up this way.
Yes, it's got cat ears.
It's very durable. Y'all don't know what
I have a tablet case that came with a Bluetooth keyboard that looks like a composition notebook.
Nice. But yeah, like I was surprised how for $20 we could get a Logitech keyboard, and then I just looked up cases for that specific keyboard because I knew I am klutzy, and was surprised for $20. So it's for $40 for both the keyboard and the case, and it has survived all these many, many years, and I've even packed it away for going on trips, and it was totally fine. Despite maybe overpacking, maybe dropping things when I pull it out of my suitcase. Oopsies. And so again, because I'm klutzy, it's part of the Ehlers-Danlos. And so having this is very helpful for, me. But like, again, many people, including many 11 and 12 and 13-year-olds, are not as like Butterfingers as I am. So they might not even need the hardbound case or the tablet case made for children. Although I do love it because it prevents me from dropping things because it's got slightly textured material. So I get a better grip on it. So I just wanted to share that as well as something to do that you could do. A lot of people don't realize how inexpensive Bluetooth keyboards are. And they're only getting cheaper now, it turns out.
Mm-hmm. This keyboard that came with a mouse was like $30 on Newegg.
Yeah, everybody I asked, how much do you think, like I would take this out, show it to friends and be like, would you like to guess the cost? And everybody thought this was $100 between the case and the keyboard. Everybody who around here was guessing between $80 and $100. And I was like, it's literally half that with the case. Because most of these people were complaining that the kids want their own laptop, but like that's a lot of money, but they understand the kids need it for school. And I'm like, less than $100 total. This was when I had the smaller tablet. I've since given the smaller tablet to a family that needs it. But I just wanted to share that as a resource as well. And also, perhaps you don't want to take your laptop with you when you travel. And again, just in case the muse hits you, how about that? Like if you're already planning to take a tablet with you, then all you need is a keyboard. I needed a larger keyboard like this because I got these fat little fingers. But some of y'all have tiny little hands. And you can use the smaller little teensy baby little keyboards, which cost even less.
I ended up getting another keyboard that I use with my tablet. I keep it in the bedroom. It's got a little slot for the tablet to sit in. Because, I have an 8-inch tablet. And the case and keyboard that came together is tiny.
Yeah. I cannot type this way. But there are some laptops where they're like, that's as big as the keyboard is on a tiny, like on the 13-inch laptops and stuff.
Like a
and I'm like, my fingers are too chubby. They literally don't work that way. So that's one of the reasons why I prefer 17-inch laptop monitors. Because
my mom has a Chromebook
keyboard
and
comes
it's so comparatively tiny to my laptop.
Yeah, I just Tom as well. Like Tom's hands are bigger than mine, and he could type on smaller keyboards. So I'm just saying, just accept however you are. If you need a larger keyboard, embrace the larger keyboard.
So one of my favorite tools that I don't know that I've ever actually talked about anywhere before is donjon.bin.sh. And it is a...
You have to turn, Tom, you're going to have to turn off your blurring because it doesn't recognize non-faces. Continue, Charlie.
I shared the screen for the
sorry.
page.
I was distracted.
It's okay.
By my little brother.
This is a site for tabletop role-playing games, but it can be very, very helpful when you're trying to do things. As you can see, it has its own version of a fantasy name generator. It has so many random generators in here that if you need to visualize something, if you need to put something together, there's probably a tool in here somewhere for you. Do you need a treasure map? Are you writing a pirate story and need a treasure map? There you go. Bing, treasure map. Not good enough for you? Let's add more markers. Let's change the layout to be... no, let's leave the layout random. Bing, new map. Oh, look, treasure map. They're simple, they're straightforward, but they might be the way, the tools that you need. Are you creating a random medieval town? Do you need to know who might be there? You can set the population up. These tables were actually made using actual census data from European medieval kingdoms.
Wow.
So you get a sense of, in a city of a certain size, what would you actually expect to find there? There are a lot of really amazing tools on here. Need a town made real quick? Bink, we have a town.
Bink.
It's nothing but random generators for different things that you may or may not need for this, that, or the other. It has calendar generators. So for Laura, because I think Laura could use this a lot. I love this because this is basically, are you creating a character that would be in a Lovecraftian type story? How about Benedict Atwood? Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't read about him in a Lovecraft story. That sounds like a character that would be there. Really fun stuff, and literally covers everything that you could possibly want.
Nice.
And like writing a sci-fi world, hey, look, do you need a map? There's your map. You can actually pull out all kinds of random details out of this. It's a really nice tool, especially if you're like me and say you're writing a sci-fi series and you're going to have them randomly land on a planet for just like a pit stop because plot demands it. I don't need to world build that entire planet right now, but I do need to know some basic things about it. I can come here, generate a random world, and just keep hitting random until I find one that I like.
Mm.
And then there you go. I have some basic tools. I can flesh it out later when I do my next deep dive in, if I need to or want to. Especially if you're writing sci-fi or fantasy, I highly recommend looking.
Oh no!
I'm having problems with my mic disconnecting. Like, I don't know what's going on with the internet and everything.
I was having problems with Carrie's mic, kept either muting or unmuting her during the break.
Google Chrome crashed on me again.
Yeah. We were like, oh no.
But like I was saying, there are a lot of resources that are out there for role-playing games that are very helpful, especially if you're doing sci-fi or fantasy world building. And I like that one. I've actually used that one to generate random dungeons when I knew that oh, I'm going to have to go through a bunch of tunnels and stuff right now, and I'm not creative when it comes to doing that kind of a map. And I've used their random dungeon generator, so I know where they have to turn. I can mark on it where the monsters and stuff are, and I find it very helpful. So
Very nice. Thank you, Charlie. Let's see. Just trying to catch up. I think this is where we left off. Megan says, another book I love, The Complete Handbook of Novel Writing, Everything You Need to Know and Create and Sell Your Work by the editors of Writer's Digest. I love Plot and Structure by James Scott Bell. It's part of the Write Great Fiction series by Writer's Digest. Highly recommend. And also she recommends Vex, Hex, Smash, Smooch by Constance Hale. A detailed look at verbs. And Pep Talks for Writers, 52 Insights and Actions to Boost Your Creative Mojo by Grant Faulkner. I should tell you what I know about the Faulkner sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you about them. Sometime.
How they're not related to each other?
Oh, just this family. Anyway, Tom points out swappa.com is a good place for used electronics like phones, tablets, and laptops. Of course, as always, buyer beware. Be sure to really examine when you get it. If you,
but
you order
on the other hand, that is what I do like is Swappa is actually pretty good about making sure these swaps are good. Like if they don't work out, there's always room for, returning them. It's like eBay without nearly as many scammers on it.
Sure.
But yes, it is always, check on, make sure that's exactly what you're looking for. They will always have to post pictures of their particular item you're buying because it is direct buyer to seller. But it always has to actually show the exact product they're selling.
So it means that they'll like have a code and they have to
they'll have a code that they post with that picture. Yeah.
So again, make sure that look at the picture carefully. But yeah, I used to buy my phones off of there at Swappa way back. Carrie posted the link that Charlie was talking about, donjon.bin.sh. Thank you, Carrie. And Megan posted.
Marked it myself.
Oh, very nice.
It's handy.
Yeah, it is. Megan also posted a link to newspaper archives, chroniclingamerica.loc.gov. That is a Library of Congress link. Thank you, Megan.
And another book that I don't know that I've mentioned on anything before that I go to a lot, and that is writing science fiction and fantasy from the editors of Analog and Asimov science fiction magazines. This is basically most of the writers of the golden age of sci-fi telling you how to write sci-fi and fantasy. But for anybody who is working on a futuristic sci-fi story, I cannot recommend enough this book just for John Barnes's How to Build the Future, where he talks about how to understand the patterns that technology generally takes, how to kind of create a very quick and dirty spreadsheet to set up what years should major technology happen to give it kind of a more natural feel, so it's not either all random or all magically happening at the same time, which generally does not happen. And to really build some of that realism into it, he also, in a very, very sad way, shows you the math of how to predict world wars and major conflicts, because they happen on a fairly regular mathematical scale, and shows you that if you put the math in and you started at this date, here's all of these wars leading up to World War II, and here's the 6 that follow.
Maybe sometime we should actually post our father's manuscript. He wrote a couple hundred pages with this algorithm claiming that there was this really kind of intricate cycle of human development, of individualistic versus group, and what he called intelligence, or not intelligence. He wasn't. It was heart versus mind. I think that was it. It was heart versus mind and individual versus group. And he showed that there was this cycle, but his math didn't quite work out for real human development. But I feel like it would probably work out really well for writers, on the other hand, particularly, and he made Mom edit it. It was hundreds of pages. There was a lot of like, did you ever want to know the Babylonian history or the Sumatran or the Mesopotamians or every culture ever? He would write outlining like how this cyclical thing. So maybe we should sometime. I do still have it, actually.
Oh, what I was going to show earlier about this keyboard is not so much the, oh, look how tiny it is,
So
however, whose hands will fit, but to also accept that, no, thumb keyboard typists. There's a lot of people who really miss the BlackBerry precisely because the keyboard was so small, because they just used their thumbs to type. And remember, all tools are tools and they're there for you to use.
Yep.
So these books, these websites, everything is just there if it's useful. If it's not helping you in your style, don't worry about it.
Like, it is not, no tool is helpful for all people in all situations. Hammers are lovely and are a wonderful thing, but they are not useful if, number one, you don't have a nail somewhere in your life or something else that needs a blunt force. Also, if you don't have like a hand that'll fit that hammer, whether we're talking about you have a very small or a very large hand, or maybe you don't have 5 fingers or 5, like somehow your hand is different, that hammer may not be useful for you. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means that hammer does not fit your needs. It's just a flipping tool, y'all. It's just a tool. And if that is not the right tool for you, move on. Just move on. There's nothing wrong.
That's the reason we're doing this episode, and why we do this, every quarter to every, at least once, if not twice a year.
Well, we do it once or twice a year. Yeah.
Is because it's a scatter shot. We know, it's hard to know for any particular person where the tools they are needing for the next step to advance them. So we're just going to put them out all these different way, and hopefully people will find something that helps them get that next rung on the ladder up.
Yes.
Towards their goal.
It's just trying to like pool our resources and share that with everybody, because this year when we do this episode may hit you different than if you watched last year's episode and you were at a different place in your writing journey. Okay. And even though we may be going over a bunch of the same ones, I know I bring up Rita Mae Brown every dang time, because you know what? There's a different reason every time, but also cats. Anyway, she was like, you have to have a cat. I thought it was funny. I just was not expecting that. Most other writers are very super serious about, I'm a very professional writer. And then she's like, meh, cats. So, like, I bring it up every time, but, I've had now 3 different people tell me in different episodes afterwards of like, hey, that Rita Mae Brown book turned out to be really good. Thanks for recommending it. And I'm like, I know for a fact you actually watched that previous episode we did this on, because you commented something else that time. So you know about the Rita Mae Brown book, but it's just like, if you're at a different place in your writing journey, or you're looking for something different this time, it may hit you differently. That's why we're bringing this stuff up. I talk about the whole, hey, did you know about my $100 word processing system before I got this lovely laptop due to a plague? It's because maybe it'll hit you different this time, and you're like, you know what? I have to travel a lot more. That's a great idea. I could just take a keyboard and use my phone this time. Like, yes, you could. But yeah, you need a keyboard if that's how you type. So we're just sharing whatever we feel like this time. Different people come on, different episodes. We're just sharing. Let me be perfectly honest. I am not that much of a woo-woo person, I don't think. Other people could laugh at me now. That's fine. But the right candle, in the right mood, sets the setting for you. Just hits you different than if you're just sitting there and you smell that your brother has just used the one toilet again. It hits you different. I know. So I'm just throwing that out there of like, yes, to me, a candle, especially a scented candle, is part of writer resources because what we do is creative work and we're in our head, but we also have to live in this shared reality. And so we're just sharing, y'all, sharing the chat, all the good stuff. But remember, don't take it too seriously. We're not saying this is all you can use and nothing else. Absolutely not. That's weird. Also, I mean, like what I think of as writer resources, cookies. How are you living your life without a secret tin of cookies or cake or candy or something?
Right? Where are my cookies at?
Where are my cookies? You're supposed to be growing a writer. Where's my cookies? I am your writer pet.
Kitchen right over there. Go make cookies.
Yeah, get in that kitchen where you belong.
I mean, he is a creature from the beyond the past.
I mean, but also, is anybody going to disagree and say Charlie's hubby does not belong in the kitchen?
With the going along with the scented candles, if you can't burn a candle, like if you live in an apartment or something,
right?
That doesn't, or a dorm room,
absolutely.
Air freshener.
Yes.
They
And
make
even
room
those little
sprays.
electric candles, you know, that give you that flicker, because sometimes that flicker against your wall is a vibe. Or
I have. Oh, it's back in the office, but you've seen it on a lot of my streams.
I'm grabbing this, but this is my bag of cookies. Wrong one.
It's an actual wax candle that has an LED light, flicker light embedded in it, so you still get that warm wax fire glow from it. But it's just takes a couple batteries, and you don't have to worry about it setting something on fire if you knock it over, which I am prone to do with candles sometimes.
I've seen a ton of like battery powered candles at like on like Target and stuff. If they're smart, they would have them on sale for like back to school and like the back to college section, but
especially all the fairy lights.
Like many dorm rooms, they don't want you to put up anything on the wall. You do not have to put them up on the wall to get that mood lighting.
String and if
you, put it around your desk or put them in a glass jar. Put them in a plastic cup. And you get a lovely diffused light. And you still, like, this one comes with like this most wonderful, intricate remote.
Put them on the inside of a skeleton and scare your neighbors.
Look at this remote. This is like a serious heavy duty remote.
This used to be Anna's nightlight.
Ah, nice. But yeah, like this costs less than $20, including the world's most intricate remote. There are many ways to get to Rome. Ambiance, I really do believe Ambiance is a major part of the creative experience.
And I also think for a lot of writers, having a good set of playlists is an extremely important tool. Because when I think of like the things that I have to write, music is really high on that list. Because even if I don't have it playing in the background, it's in the back of my mind playing because I'm that person.
So, like, there's so much more to the creative endeavor, like writing, than just, well, you got paper and a pen, right? Just write.
Although, speaking of...
Is it time to bring out the pens?
No.
Oh, darn it.
Speaking of other tools, for people who are like, but I need to write, I can't type. But it's so exhausting after I write, I then need to type it in and all of this, and it's hard to keep it organized. And I never know, as well as it's hard to keep paper safe because, I'm in rough environments. There's now rewritable paper that comes with its own scanning tool. You can go get Rocketbooks. And not only can you write on it like paper, but it erases with water, or you can use a friction pen. And it's got a little app that you can actually just take pictures and it'll automatically scan it in and store it wherever you want, whether it's Google Drive, OneNote, Quick Notes, wherever you want to keep them. And you can always erase the page once you're done with it. You know it's backed up, it's scanned in, and it's not as prone to weather. You don't have to worry about the pages going bad. But I mean, there's tools for every kind of writer and creative. You know, if you're the kind of person who's like, I can never get time alone with electronics to type things up. Usually when I've got quiet time, I'm not near any electronics. Okay, find some paper that works for you. Do you need something that you can quickly scan and back up online? Get a Rocketbook. If, a regular notebook doesn't appeal.
And don't neglect your phone. I wrote so many chapters of The Chain on my phone because I was somewhere waiting for something and knew what I needed to get written and just pulled out my notes app and just typed it all out and copied and pasted it over into my draft later.
Let's see, I'm picking up. Let's see. Megan pointed out there's an online emotion thesaurus and has the link there. Kat said if anyone hasn't mentioned the forest app, we haven't, so stop your phone from distracting you. Also, you can plant trees. I think they actually plant real trees in real life too for each one that you grow in your app. CB uses an electric candle. It's from Yankee Candle Centerpieces. So it sounds like it may be scented as well. That sounds nice. Carrie points out Project Shadow makes really great music, just saying.
And I just released a new single.
Ooh, and there's a new single, y'all. And Megan also put in, if you need to make a mind map, you can make a free one in Miro.com and put the link in. Kat points out you can use Dictation in Google Docs.
Oh, Dictation is one of the greatest things in the world unless you're a sci-fi fantasy writer.
I say you can use Dictation in Google Docs. You can also use it if you use Gboard for your Android phone's keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
It has one built in that's fairly effective for English speakers.
Megan says my favorite search site, and has the link, they plant trees to offset the energy the searches use. Very nice. So, again, because what we do, I feel like what we do has such a holistic approach. A lot of resources are maybe not what would seem traditional resources, but I think to fellow writers, it's like, of course, I know that writers, even such as Louisa May Alcott, talked about writing to candlelight is a different experience than writing in sunlight.
I was muted, Megan. Sorry. I was trying to say I'm afraid to use Dictation when I do text to speech to text message.
Mm-hmm.
My phone doesn't hear me right sometimes, and I get a response of WTF from whoever I'm sending it to. So I'm afraid that would just make more work in the editing department for me.
Mm-hmm. CB says the centerpiece looks like an electric plant pot, and there's a variety of scented wax melt cups like Midnight Jasmine, Sicilian Lemon. There's loads of scents, and the cups aren't expensive. Oh, that's very nice. So definitely help you make a scent without having a flame necessarily. Sounds very nice. I know that, for me, scent definitely can play a role in my writing. And so it helps to set the mood, both with music, with lighting, with scent. As writers, they talk about us using all the scents in the way we describe when we use descriptive text. It really helps to also set that tone for ourselves. I have been known to put beans on the stove if I needed to write my Wild West, one of my Wild West romances. just because it just has this vibe, this smell, this like romantic feel. Bacon, cornbread, and beans. Okay, yes, I am that way.
Now I'm thinking of that scene from Blazing Saddles.
Carrie, how dare!
I'm sorry.
Just farting by candlelight.
I mean, it is a noteworthy scene for
Out on
several
the trail.
reasons.
That's just where
Including-
my mind goes.
Including the censors weren't sure how to censor it. Every time it's been shown on every medium, the censors are like, I feel like this should be censored, but I can't figure out how to say why.
Also, everybody passes gas. It is a normal human function. Calm down, y'all. It's funny. But maybe it's mostly funny because, you know, as kids, people were like, oh, how dare you? Versus like, it's just farts, okay? It's just farts. It's cool. But yeah, like for me, certain scenes, like versus if I'm writing my Regency romance, oh, you better believe I'm setting out the afternoon tea. I got a pot of tea. I've got my afternoon tea sandwiches. It's just a vibe when I'm writing. I'm probably playing Vivaldi because like it's just a vibe for me. So I just feel like I think it's important as writers that we not neglect our own experience in the process of writing.
For me, my main experience of writer's block is that my mind starts running away with itself. And this is my favorite. Like, I need to stop everything, get back away from whatever my mind has fixated on app. It is called Pause. It is available. I did check for both Apple and for Android. And it is a beautiful, simple little app that it puts a dot on the screen that will, when you put your finger on it, will make this lovely resonant sound. And you have to keep it moving. But if you move too quickly, it will stop. If you move too slow, it will stop. You literally have to pause and just slowly move your hand, just very carefully and mindfully on the screen of your device, and just focus for a minute. You can set a timer if you want to do it for a specific amount of time, and when it's done, it'll play a chime to let you know you've hit your time that you set to do it. It is elegant. It is simple. It is just a beautiful little app. They've also added several other features to it that are nice as well, but that one is my favorite because when I just get bogged down and I just can't focus, or I'm overly focused on all the wrong things because ADHD is a real thing. This is a wonderful app to just bring me back, that I've used to bring me back in and help me get going on my creativity again, because it just breaks all of those cycles for me. And it's really good to use with headphones because it is the sounds that it generates are stereo and will really just kind of transport you away for a minute.
Very nice. Thank you, Charlie. Megan says, my favorite Pomodoro app, Tide, it plays music and other ASMR sounds in the background and dings when you're done with your Pomodoro. Customize how much time you spend. It's fantastic. Tom, did you see my message?
Yeah, I'm checking. It's been a while since I've looked for it, so like.
And Megan has posted the link to the Tide app, or at least their website. So, what I was asking Tom was there is I guess it's a dictation interactivity. Because several people, like Carrie and CB both talked about how dictation apps weren't really working well for them for whatever the variety of reasons. I've tried a bunch of them and they don't work that well for me, but Tom found one that worked surprisingly well. I was actually genuinely surprised how accurate it was. And what we could do was you can actually, I believe, talk to it directly or just upload an audio file. and it was very accurate. You don't have to say period. It's actually pretty good about figuring out where your periods are in your pause. The rest of it, you do have to tell it, like comma. But I thought some of y'all might want to try this service. It is free. And see, because, as I said, like, I too have had that problem. My Southern accent throws it off. And apparently it did not throw off this software. So I thought y'all might want to try that and see if you experience, as well as I like that you can also upload your own audio file. So you can record it and then upload it. And that way you can see without, like, if you record it, you can always just do your own typing. But you can also see if it would translate, what you're saying accurately. As I said, it was very little editing that I had to do for it.
Yeah, this one, I mean, it says the demo, and it is because this is actually they're trying to sell to other businesses. But, for personal use, it works fine. It has no problems with 10 or 40-minute audio files. And it'll just, automatically transcribe it.
So just like something to like give a try. Please do report back to us if you try it and whether it worked for you or not. Just so that, so we have more knowledge about, well, for certain accents, they are still working on it, or, oh, it worked okay, so that we know. But I just wanted to also share that with those who maybe have had a harder time like I have had. I've even tried Dragon Speak and was like, well, F this. So, anyhow.
Dragon, the app that's gotten worse over time.
Seriously, though, yes. Okay.
So,
Charlie had this one.
This is, unfortunately, it's Apple only, but it basically does the same thing. It is a really good audio notes app, but with a press of a button, it will transcribe whatever audio that you have in it into a text file that you can save and do with what you please. It works really, really well. The one thing that I like about this one is it can detect the difference between two speakers. So if you're having a conversation with someone that you need transcribed, while it won't fill in the names, it very often will put in like a double dash in front of the sentence every time a new speaker starts speaking, which I found really, really helpful when it did that. Also depends on how similar your voices are, but I've used this one a lot. It's very simple. It's really elegant. It's literally just a record button. Like when you load the app, it's just a record button that you hit it and it does its thing. You actually have to swipe over to get to the other things because it is exactly what it says. Just press record.
Nice. All right. Carrie, written kitten, right? That one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, we lost Charlie again. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I'm like, wait, I do not press
certain
anything.
number of words,
like you tell it how many, like after,
words.
or
there's a thing at the bottom here.
This is my way. I don't like using Google Products face.
Yeah, I get it.
There's a thing down here that says every 100, 200, 500, or 1,000 words. So I just have it for 100 words, and then a picture of kitty pops up. Or they have bunnies and puppies. And I used to use it when just writing, but they don't. Then you have to copy it into whatever word processor you're using. So sometimes I'll just use it to brainstorm, and then cute pictures.
Very cool. Who doesn't love cute pictures? Get some oxytocin. Megan says, I have a Fitbit charge too. It's old but fantastic. It reminds me to get up and walk around every so often. Plus, I can track how much exercise and stuff. I recommend it if you need that reminder. Very useful, because as writers, we do tend to be stuck in our own heads and forget that the body needs movement to live.
Wait, what?
I know, it's wild, but the lymphatic system requires movement plus gravity to work. It's a bummer, but it's true. Laura points out a website that will read your story to you in a more naturalistic sounding voice. A ton of voices to choose from, and there is the link there, naturalreaders.com. Let's see. Megan says, a favorite website to get me to write about editing. To write without editing. Write or Die. Don't go to the new version. It's a mess. So, here, go to the old version.
Yeah, I hear a lot of other AuthorTubers saying Write or Die, but I don't like the whole, it starts deleting your words if you're not writing fast enough or if you pause for too long.
I feel like that's a problem that Laura has not experienced.
CB says that the dictation software doesn't work for her at all. The site turned the first line of my current short story, I Awoke with a Groan, into I Walk with E-Rule.
Oh.
CB, you so remind me of that skit from Burniston, where these two Scottish guys are stuck in a voice-operated elevator. They are screaming at it, and it still does not. It won't open. It won't take them anywhere. They're stuck and trapped as they're trying to, like, here, maybe I just need to yell at it closer. So they're stuck there till
I think she knows it, Glory. I think she knows that skit.
Yeah.
I love it.
Did you say?
Kind of wish there was at least in one more season.
Oh yeah, me too. Kat says, for the words can be nice, but so have a monthly fee, so not much, but still a fee. Yeah. I haven't used it because of the fee. Megan says that Laura would love the Write or Die horror theme. Laura has also seen the skit 11 when they're stuck in the... That is actually how I saw that little skit. I think it was maybe even a GIF. And Tom and I took months and finally hunted it down, and then we're months hunting down, like, this was before it was on Netflix for a little while, because I was like, I have to see what this show is. Oh my God. Because having a Southern accent is kind of like that too when you're trying to use voice operated stuff. Siri is notorious, as is Alexa and all the rest of them. Shall we break for a little bio moment? It sounds like it's that time. I do have the 10-minute puppy timer set up. If you are all ready for a little break.
Not the puppies.
All the puppies.
But how will we do anything with their cuteness?
10 minutes of puppies. What a great time to go get a snack, get a walk, check the bladder, stare at the ceiling, write a little, whatever you want to do. We'll see y'all back here at approximately 10 minutes. Beepity beep. Beepity beep. Beepity beep beep beep.
I got lost in a thesaurus because I couldn't find the right word.
Mood. Yes, during the break, Tom did post the link to the Burniston elevator skit. If you have not watched it, or you would like to rewatch it, there is a link here. Super fun. I believe the two guys in it are the ones who wrote this skit, so understand they are not making fun of Scottish accents as much as they are making fun with Scottish accents. So, how we doing?
Still organizing my room.
I mean, that's
I'm dealing with a misbehaving mouse.
Well, maybe
Hey, Everett.
I should jump in with many more of my own personal recommendations. That is what I was looking at, where I lost track of how time works during the break.
I love a good finglonger.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's a good tool for everyone.
But especially writers.
Do you have a bad back? Get thyself a finglonger.
There's the Rita Mae Brown book. It is close by. Okay. So, I realize not everybody may have this problem, but one of my biggest problems in writing, this is my biggest problem actually, is over the decades I have internalized all the negative criticisms, the baseless criticisms that I have been told about my own writing and storytelling. They all live in my head rent-free now. So, and they're very good at talking me out of writing or sharing my writing or pursuing my stories for y'all, for anyone to read ever. And so probably the two biggest areas of books I spend my money on as far as to help me write, one of the ways I talk myself out of it is I say to myself, you don't know enough about how to write, which is a way I'm talking myself out of it. Just because you don't know how to write a particular scene doesn't mean you shouldn't just dive in and just get something at least on paper. Because a year from now, you will not remember all of it. It's just how the human brain works. But the other where I spend my money, writing-wise, is talking me into writing. I spend a lot of money on other writers talking me into doing it. The Mental Game of Writing by James Scott Bell. These are worthy books. This Year You Write Your Novel by Walter Mosley. Honestly, even Rita Mae Brown's book, Show Your Work, Starting from Scratch, was a lot about just do it. Don't talk yourself out of this. It is still within your realm. If you can speak any language in the world, you're capable of writing that. And so there is nothing wrong with spending the money on someone else coaching you into yes, you can. even if you're like me and it's, these are just negative voices. They're not based in reality of who I am as a writer. It's still fun. It's still fun to spend your money. Maybe once a year you find a good coaching book and you spend your money, spend $10 on a book that tells you, yes, you can do it. It's still fun. I do really like James Scott Bell and Walter Mosley, all of them. One of the books I have, though, that does not fit into any of those categories I told you about that I really like, though, is Diane Wynne Jones' The Tough Guide to Fantasyland. It is written like a rough guide, as if Fantasyland was a real location, and you're new here. So let's see. Okay, shapeshifting is frequent among both wares and magic users. The usual form taken is that of a wolf. See also werewolves. But lions, eagles, serpents, owls, and cats are common too. In all cases, the rule is that the shapeshifter cannot stay too long in animal form without actually becoming that animal and losing touch with his/her human thoughts. There are two schools of shapeshifting, and it goes on. One is illusionary, and the other is actual. It goes on. It's just but it's very nice. It's also very funny about this entire, idea of high fantasy and low fantasy. And I actually have found it useful when writing fantasy stories. They talk about cults. They talk about wizards, missing heirs, minions, merchant feudalists, mind speech, literal minds, mages, magic, heat stroke, hedge witches. But as somebody who does write fantasy from time to time, I did find it useful to remember, well, what is the norm here? I can't remember what everybody else knows.
So on that note of like a coaching book that gets you going, I have a very different kind of tough love approach to my brain, because if I'm too nice to it, it abuses me.
Hey, Cherry.
So, how can I say this politely? I did share the cover of the book.
Oh, thank you.
Stephen Pressfield's No One Wants to Read Your Stuff is a book that I have been reading and rereading right now. I've talked a lot about the first book in this series, which is The War of Art, which also, if you have a hard time finding motivation, that is what that book is about. Motivation for writers, and not a here's how you make yourself motivated. It's here's all of the things that in my entire career I have tried, and sometimes they worked. Have you tried this thing? Let's talk. That one's a very good book. This one I love because, one, this is the demon in my head constantly yelling at me, nobody wants to read this. Who wants this? Nobody wants to read this. And I love the premise of this book is, you know what? The demon is right. Nobody wants to read this. Here's how to A, make them want to read it, and B, realize that you're actually looking for your minimum viable audience and building up from there. Because if you want to read it, somebody else does. And it is very practical. It is very to the point. This book, I think, is in total 122 pages long and has 119 chapters.
Oh my God.
It is straight to the point. This is the thing. This is the thing. Have you done this? Have you tried this? Are you doing this? And there's something about Pressfield's style of writing in his books for writer series that I find extremely motivating. That gets me up and moving. And my two favorites are The War The War of Art, which, again, if you haven't read that, I highly recommend it. And this one, because as long as you are focusing on the things that you need to focus on, and you know that you're focusing on them, it's easier to make those little demons of doubt be quiet. And so I like a very no-nonsense author who has those same demons being like, okay, so I can't teach you how to exercise them because demons, but here's how to take their power away.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very, very helpful.
Let's see. Megan said, a book that talked me into writing The 7 Necessary Sins for Women and Girls by Mona Edahoy. I don't know. She says it's so important to have perspectives from people who don't fit the mold. I absolutely agree. That's one of the reasons why we keep doing this. We originally were only planning to do 8 episodes of the live stream and stop. And we're still here like a year and a half later. In part to encourage others to share their unique voices, because every person in this corner of AuthorTube that I've gotten to know has had a perspective that I have not seen in mainstream book availability. Whether that means that there's somebody like them traditionally or independently published or not, I'm not seeing it in the writings, which doesn't mean it's not necessarily there, but obviously it means there needs to be more like them, because we definitely have not hit a saturation level for people like them. And I mean that about each person I've met so far in AuthorTube, quite honestly. So, like, each time I think I know a person's profile here on AuthorTube, I get to know them a little bit better and find out, oh no, I am not seeing that kind of perspective in the stories that I have come across, both as a librarian and as an avid reader. So, yes, we need more. We constantly need more. And that's why one of the things that we're trying to do is encourage more writers to actually put their work out there, to share what they have with these kind of shows. Tom has posted a link. University of Chicago class on writing and unlearning everything you were taught in school is wrong for creative and academic writing. And I believe that is available free here on YouTube, yes?
Yeah. I'm thinking about maybe translating it for fiction writers, since it is done mostly as for academic writers. But pretty much if you just change, the academic reader to fandom, it's for fiction. Like, humans are humans.
Right.
But it's talking about all of these behaviors you develop from school, like explaining what you know about this subject before you say what's new about it. And all these other little behaviors you have from writing for school that your teacher taught you because your teacher wanted to see, did you actually know the subject they were teaching you? And these are all the worst things you can do when you're writing as a person, as the font of knowledge. When you're writing as the person who knows everything, these are the last ways you want to write. Your reader will leave very quickly, because why do they care?
Yes. Cherry points out best writing motivation: watch a bad movie / show or read a bad book.
I wrote 3 novels after watching Gods of Egypt.
That's a mood and a half. Tom has posted another link, an entire writing masterclass series for fantasy / sci-fi writers by one of the most popular writers currently, Brandon Sanderson.
He's the one who set that record on, not Indiegogo, but one of those, because really it was just people. It was just people pre-ordering his book. That's all it really was. It's not really like they set it up, but also, like, it answers the question Gloria's had for the longest time: why are Mormons such a large percentage of sci-fi fantasy writers? And it's because BYU has had this class since 1985.
Tom would like to now tell you the story, because he told it to me earlier.
Also, have you read the Book of Abraham? I mean...
Anyway,
great piece of work.
I'm not here to poke fun at but just rather, I like the story about that bastard, Orson Scott Card. Go
Yeah,
on.
said, "Oh
Evil-
yeah, sure,
evil
I'll teach
man.
a class here, no problem," and then dropped it like a week before classes started. So another professor's like, "Hey, we had a lot of people sign up. Obviously, there's interest," and taught it for several years. And then they started having other actual writers teach this, and including how to get published, which so few do. And so it's told from the perspective of people in the industry instead of academics. And I think this has a lot to do with why there are so many, because it's a hey, and Brandon takes it from the perspective of, so maybe you like to tell a story, here's the way to do it. This is still for you. It doesn't matter if you ever do it. Writing is just good for everyone because it helps you be creative. It gets that outlet we all need to be creative and expressive. And so it's a very good masterclass, a lot better than a bunch on masterclass.com about what's really needed to make these stories. What is it your reader wants and expects?
But unlike Brandon, please give your characters memorable names. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, please don't.
Here endeth my TED Talk.
Oh, even Brandon talks about his problem with names.
I have read several Brandon Sanderson books, and I finally gave up because I realized I could not name a single character in any of them, even while I was writing them. If it wasn't for the fact that he kept the same gloves on one character, I would not have known who they were throughout the book because my brain would not memorize their name.
Yeah. I mean, we've all got our shortcomings.
Tom posted a talk on how ADHD brains actually work and what helps them function in modern society. This may be helpful as well.
If you are watching this show
and you have stuck around this long,
there is
you
a
are
good
likely
chance.
neurodivergent. We know our niche, okay? If you stuck around here longer than 5 minutes, you are probably neurodivergent, or at the very least, you deeply love a neurodivergent person. Things that are under the neurodivergent umbrella include ADHD, bipolar disorder, Tourette's, epilepsy, autism. Oh my God, there's so many. I still lose count. Anybody help out?
But this talk's given by the guy who essentially has been running this study of ADHD for the last 60 plus years. And so what they've actually learned in clinical settings. Here's what they know actually works. Occasionally, he'll say stuff that if you are ADHD will piss you off. And then in the next 10 minutes, you go, okay, maybe he does have a point still. I will take it under advisement. But it is just, here's what they've found with ADHD brains.
Mm-hmm.
And also the problems with female ADHD brains and how much this whole women don't have ADHD is a lie, especially as adults. Here's what it looks like. Here's how you can tell.
And that it is important for a lot of adults to be diagnosed just so they understand why they are so exhausted and burnt out. Why are they so miserable by the time they're in their mid to late 20s or early 30s? And it's because masking is incredibly exhausting and draining.
And ADHD is probably, if it was named now, I kid you not, he does actually mention this, late bloomer's disorder. Because what it really is that the time scale for the ADHD mind to mature is at half to a third the time scale of a neurotypical person. They will eventually get a lot of these functions that neurotypical people have, but it'll be at such a later time. People in their 50s, you don't see a lot of ADHD behavior because the brain has matured and gotten those functions it needs. But by that point, you're so good at masking, no one else can tell.
So another link is manuscriptwishlist.com, website of what kind of novels literary agents are currently looking for, if that is your jam, or you're just looking for inspiration. Just saying, it's something to check out. Maybe feel better about yourself. I don't know.
And on the note of feeling better about yourself, don't neglect the power of archive.org. When you're writing a certain trope or certain type of story and you're like, there is not an audience for this, figure out the name of it, go there, search it, see all of the people, A, writing it, and B, all of the people reading it, and feel better that there is a potential audience out there for you.
Right. There is an audience for any kind of story, really. Carrie has posted Podcasts Are Helpful, Rebel Author Podcast by Sasha Black, writing about dragons and Stiff. I just binged and Twisted Tendrils by our own darling Laura Nettles. Also, is it somebody we know doing like, what was it? Like fantasy first aid clinic or something?
I'm doing fantasy first aid over on my channel. I also have a podcast titled Myth Weaving that is a world building 101 and 201 class where we use John Bonnet's Stealing Fire from the Gods kind of as a textbook and go through and walk you through to create a world step by step by step by step.
Did you know AuthorTube are links in the show's description? Follow the arrow. I'm just saying it's there. I did update during the last sprint. During the last break, I updated Carrie and Charlie's info down below.
Oh, you know which one we're missing, Link? No one has posted Devin's cutting.
Well, mods, somebody. Okay. Let's see. Tom posted a link to helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com, KM Whelan's website to help writers develop.
She also has a very, 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 very long running podcast.
Yes. And I really let me tell you, if you are old enough to know the Neverending Story and you are therefore familiar with the Mirror Gate, if you are ready for the Mirror Gate, I recommend KM Whelan's workbooks. Because that is a deep, dark look into your own soul, and how you have more work to do as a writer. Like that, her workbooks are so good, but it is a harsh look into one's own soul to find out what you are maybe possibly missing in your writing. I highly recommend her stuff. Also, usually at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, she runs a crazy wonderful sale. Like her entire back catalog for $5 on ebooks. So if you are a starving artist, it is definitely worth it to follow her if you like some of her stuff for just alone for the sale. As a way to get her stuff to actually then start diving into her works, because her stuff is what we call in the cooking industry tried and true. She tests it on people. She tests all her writing advice, all her workbooks on real human beings, and then does layers and layers of this so that it is definitely the biggest bang for your buck for honing your craft. So just sharing that with you.
Yeah, she is the opposite of, we were talking at the beginning of the show about how to tell is somebody flim-flamming about writing.
Mm-hmm.
She is on the opposite side because so much of her work involves, and here's what I talked and interviewed another writer about and discussed with them. Here's their information of so much group consensus work.
Her work is so dense that I've had to reread her books multiple times because I was not ready to absorb all of her information the first go round.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those of if we're talking about KM Whelan, you're going to reread them multiple times because there is so much useful information you can sink your teeth into, but you won't be able to do it all at once because you honestly need to have a couple go arounds.
Yeah, you can tell she's not paid by the word. She's not trying to earn a living by the word on her stuff. She has got it succinctly. She just wants to put as little time as she has to create effective. So yeah, plan to reread it to figure out what form it's rereadable. Do you need it in a printed book, or will ebook work, or do you need an audio?
And just speaking of perennial classics that get brought up, I think every time we talk about writing stuff, for absolutely no reason is this back on my desk again, because, no reason whatsoever, but J. Michael Straczynski's script writing. If you are working, thinking of, I've got the blur on, don't I?
The blur, baby!
The blur. It looks... No, actually, the blur is not on. I don't know why the camera has decided to just focus on me. Is that better? That's better. My camera's doing it. It's not actually the blur.
I don't think your camera's recording at all now.
You froze.
Oh.
Your camera froze.
Hello?
Anyway. I'm moving on my screen. I don't like you,
Yeah,
Chrome.
you're frozen.
I really don't like you, Chrome.
Like, we can hear you, so that's cool. Yeah, like, okay, you went to avatar mode, but your camera is still frozen when you came back.
Really?
Yep.
I know. I'm sorry.
Anywho, so
I got it. Don't worry, Charlie. Here, I got you covered, babe.
No matter what you're doing, whether it's
That's who convinced me
teleplays,
to buy my own.
hopefully it's not a curse and you suddenly get frozen now.
No. Mine though used to be a library book though.
This is one of the best books if you are looking at doing any kind of script writing, from television to movies to audio plays to anything that has a script format. Anything and everything that has a script format. It is explained in here in detail, from animation to radio to stage plays. Like everything. And there's absolutely no reason this is on my desk again. But it is handy, is useful, is good.
There's even
I'm gonna have to add that to my list because I always thought it would be fun. People talk about adapting their books into movies and TV shows, and I want an audio drama.
And yes, he has sample contracts in there so you can see, and explains what certain arcane clauses actually mean.
Yes, I have the part for the radio drama marked. Because radio drama script writing is apparently a little different. And getting an agent.
If you are not familiar with Joe and Joe's writing, like talking about somebody who knows what they're talking about, this man has written scripted television since I was a child. Like he got his start on He-Man and She-Ra. Like that's where he got started, all the way up through Babylon 5 and Jeremiah and Sense8 and more movies than I can count. So many comics, just not, and then his books, which are also brilliant and wonderful. But yeah, it's a very handy book, and it is very much a craft book. It is not going to teach you the art of writing a screenplay. This isn't Save the Cat. This isn't Blake Snyder explaining like the idea of a movie to you. It's okay. Indent this kind of text this far. If this isn't capitalized, no one will read your script. It's very the bare bones, 100% how to make a script for various forms of media.
Also, like he has a whole section, the business of script writing, where he goes into how to deal with everything, including when they tell you the check's in the mail.
Yep.
As well as if you're into Babylon 5, there is a whole Babylon 5 episode script in here for you to have a wonderful time playing around with. So, yes, it was absolutely worth buying this for me already, even though we ended up not recording a radio play yet of that story that I was needing it for. So, let's see. Okay, Laura posted a link for Devin, and Megan posted a link for Devin's playlist. Because, yes, as a writer, do you know about Devin? Do you know about our dear friend Devin?
Have you really made it if Devin doesn't know about you yet?
Have you ever been interrogated by Devin about the worthiness to be on the playlist? I have, twice.
Let's see. Thomas puts a link to the YouTuber Pushing Up Roses. I don't know if anybody's familiar with her.
Oh, I love Pushing Up Roses.
Inspiration for writing by what was put out on TV. She mostly
remind me of
focuses
these.
on
Sometimes you need
television.
to see the mediocre that has been put out, that you really need to stop being so harsh on yourself.
And so much Jessica Fletcher.
Because the stories they have put through Jessica Fletcher and Murder, She Wrote, by the way, still a continuing book series.
Yes.
That Glory showed me when she was working in the libraries.
Yes, and they're listed as by Jessica Fletcher.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's like, And like, let me tell you, the patrons who come in going, I can't believe she's still writing. She's got to be like, what, 90 something? I'm like, huh? I was like, Angela Lansbury's not Jessica Fletcher. Oh, I know. Jessica Fletcher's just a character. No, she's real. See, she writes books. Okay, I'm just not here to argue. I don't care. I'm not here for this. I don't care.
But I mean,
Let
but
me
I do
introduce
find
you to the concept of the pseudonym.
but I do find it useful, as well as Matt Baum, for sometimes as writers we need to be reminded what has actually been put on TV.
Mm-hmm. The real
that
thing.
They wrote these lines, they acted them out, they expected accolades and awards for some of this. Your writing often is better.
Also, Pushy Up Roses often does Goosebumps as well.
Yep.
The TV show Goosebumps sometimes.
And it looks like she's also now doing Miss Fisher mysteries.
Yeah, Miss Fisher murder mysteries, and
in case she does games.
She does games. She'll analyze games, which actually I found to be inspiring too, for a similar reason of, she will tear apart a murder mystery game, and I love it
in a very entertaining way.
It's very sweet. She's not like, how dare they? It's more like, wait, what? I am supposed to accept this? It's that. It's really cute. And she's seems like a very sweethearted person. Yes, Angela Lansbury is in her 90s, but she ain't writing these J.B. Fletcher murder mysteries.
I would also recommend, on a similar note to Pushing Up Roses, Princess Week's channel, because not only does she break down tropes very often on there, but will sometimes go into extremely deep dives about those tropes, where they came from, how they came to be, why they are popular, why they maybe shouldn't be popular.
I mean, her and
the stuff she can't say on It's Lit.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, but come on, the PBS YouTube series is for the most part just her and what's her name? Ellis?
Lindsay Ellis.
Lindsay Ellis.
Like, they're the writers for the PBS, writing YouTube show. And if you want to get a more personalized version, go directly to their own YouTube channel.
Lindsay isn't making content on her YouTube channel anymore.
Yeah, she's switched to doing like 2 or 3 others for PBS because people be crazy since she's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Here is another YouTube account I actually recommend. It is a retail company, Jet Pens. But the reason why I recommend them is they really do an analysis of the kinds of writing styles and the right kind of pens. I guess it's more of a Japanese philosophy of pens. That somewhere in this world, there must be the perfect pen for you. If only you knew enough about your own writing style and needs, and you knew enough about what pens are available on this planet. And Jet Pens has both a lot of videos, but also a lot of actual blog articles on their website about this. And through that, because I used to experience quite a bit of pain right here when I would write with pens, usually within about 20 minutes. And I found out that it's because I am a heavy writer. I press down more. And they had several videos as well as blog articles about it and various pens that they recommended. Good night. And it really helped me find several pens. Many of these pens are available locally at Walmart and Target and so on. And what eventually it led me to was making a Frankenstein pen out of the chassis of a Uniball Signo and the actual pen of an Energel needle tip. Because I liked the flow of one. Thank you. Yeah. I liked the flow of one, but I liked the chassis of a different one. And I found that they were interchangeable. because one of the videos they had recommended, if the flow on one you like a certain way, but maybe it's too bulky or too small of a chassis, try switching out. Sometimes they fit, especially Japanese originated designs. They often are intermixable.
But in most pens, you'll see the grip and the barrel, and usually that's where the screw point is.
So, like this one, I take this,
and sometimes, yeah, you can also take the tip off.
And I take this, and then I just switch it out. And that was very liberating for me, as well as to see that I don't have to just buy pens and then throw them away. Because again, I also had some environmental concerns. But when I'm not throwing away as much of the pen, I am just reusing the pen and just having refillable pens. That was also very nice. And by the way, very affordable. So I just wanted to share that about like jet pens, as well as, yes, I find jet pens videos just very calming, y'all. I know other people like to meditate to like soft little wind chime music, and I am here to meditate to jet pens talking about stationery, but it relaxes me so much. Like, it just centers. I don't know. Look, stationery, okay? I just like it. Let's see. Love of jet pens. Yes, Japanese stationery, y'all. All right. And then Charlie's got some
2 YouTube channels that, if you're doing science fiction, the first one especially, Space Doc is from the people behind the Sovereign series of books that you may have heard of, because they kind of sparked a whole Audible needs to be burned to the ground thing, because Audible tried to back out of some royalty payments to them for things that was going around a couple months ago. Their channel is people who are not only writing science fiction, but are huge fans of science fiction. And they do basically reviews of space tech. Like, how realistic is it? Would this work in outer space? How does it work? If you're wanting to have any level of realism in your space travel at all, which granted, it will all be fantasy unless you're not going to allow for faster than light travel, which they also have a really good video on the ways faster than light have been done in science fiction, and taxonomically break it down to just 10 ways that it's ever been done. So you can just pick the way that you want to do it. They're a very good resource for all things sci-fi like that. The other link that I put into the private chat was for Artifexian. Artifexian is a godsend of a channel if you are interested in making a constructed language. Do you want your world to have a unique calendar that actually matters, like that relates to, say, moon phases or the equinox? Do you not understand the math? Great. He made spreadsheets that you can download that will figure the math out for you. It's a very useful channel if you're doing any of the really deep world building stuff that can really be overwhelming. Like his video series on how to do a constructed language, if you go all the way back to the start of his channel, they start off very simple and very like about the idea of what conlanging is. More recently, he's been really having fun with exactly what is taxonomical gender when we're talking about language, and can gender be dog? And yes, that could be a taxonomic gender when we're talking about how languages are actually gendered. It is a very interesting channel, really well thought out videos. I highly recommend, if that's the kind of rabbit hole that you, like me, like to fall down.
I feel like the gender everyone forgets about biblically is the "your mere presence scares the ever living out of me," and that would be the angel gender in the Old Testament.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really, like, if you're into this sort of thing, it's very fun. I love con languages. There's a channel named Zidnaf, which is XIDNAF, which is a really bad conlang joke that if anybody gets it, you're my people. Like, it would take literally an hour to explain it, which is why it's a conlang joke. But that's also a really good channel for information on constructed languages. These are things that I like to do in my spare time. Unless you're a J.R.R. Tolkien, they should not take up the lion's share of your world building. But let's be honest, all of his world building was an excuse for his conlangs to exist.
Yes.
Because that was his main interest. So, but constructed languages are a fun thing. They really do add a lot of flavor to a setting if you want to put them in. Also vulgarlang.com, which I've talked about before, which will auto-generate based off of a few checkboxes, a constructed language for you that you can then tweak and play with. I've talked about that one before on several different things, but yeah, very good resources. Cannot recommend them enough.
Everett points out, what is it? Biblardian is another good one for conlangs.
Yes.
And I feel like, is it possible to talk about writer resources without, again, mentioning Space Jock's Y Writer software? Which is free and available for both Windows, Android, and iOS, and Mac OS. That is still in beta, though. Mac OS is still in beta.
For when you need a more advanced organizing tool for your story and stories.
I threw in a link for WASD20.
Oh, that's also a very good channel.
Mm-hmm.
Very heavy on maps.
A world building, a D&D Twitch channel. So.
Yeah, his YouTube channel is very heavy on map making and has some really good stuff. I'm literally.
Then you invite in the map trolls. Your map will never be good enough.
Oh no, I love him, but he is a map troll. He has a video that's literally him ranting for about an hour about how somebody used fonts instead of hand lettering a map when it was supposed to be a handmade map.
How dare. Kat points out QuillWriter is also a simple writing software that you can use.
Again, these are just things to try out. See if it works for you.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, oh well. But you never know. It may make writing easier and more fun and enjoyable for you because it should never be a slog.
Right.
And I feel like we would be remiss naming all of these YouTube channels without mentioning OSP. Overly Sarcastic Productions. Their trope talks. I every time I find myself, oh no, I'm including this trope in a story, the first thing I do is go to YouTube and type trope talks and the name of the trope to see if they've done a video on it already. Because they're so good. They're just so good.
Cherry points out, as our GitHub is my fave map generator. Also known as Fantasy Map Generator.
Okay. You got almost 2 million subscribers and you still haven't changed your channel to a short...
Tom.
Oh, come on. If they're Overly Sarcastic Productions, yeah, everyone else can be overly sarcastic about what the hell.
Red and blue deserve nothing less.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Gosh.
They also have a podcast, and Red is on a D&D podcast with Sophia/Indigo.
And of course, we should also mention Terrible Writing Advice.
Yeah, they're good too.
Don't do any of the things, but I can't tell you. I've actually, his video on love triangles. I've actually read the book that was that, except for not sarcastic. And I'm wondering if he read that book too and then made a video out of it.
Yeah,
That exists. And his apology video is one of the greatest videos ever put on YouTube.
Carrie's posted a link. Adrian Von Ziegler.
I follow them on Spotify too, because like I said, I have a lot of his music on various playlists.
Mm-hmm.
Because he does a lot of fantasy themed music. And it's all instrumental. Because I can't focus on lyrics when I'm writing.
Same.
On that note, both Spotify and Apple Music have wonderful playlists. If there's a specific genre that you're really wanting to write to, if you just type in like heavy metal instrumentals, they have playlists that are that genre and just no lyrics. Like they're easy to find, and they have them for most genres. If you just add the word instrumental after your favorite music genre, you can fairly easily find that.
I used to write a lot in coffee shops and libraries. I very much enjoy the sound of just ambient people existing. And so at the start of the pandemic, it was really difficult for me to not be around these ambient sounds anymore. Like after about 20 minutes of writing, it was just like, I got nothing. I would search through YouTube and just use the word ambiance or ambient. So if I was writing something sort of medieval based, it would be ambient tavern, ambient medieval. And I would get all sorts of wonderful, like 1 to 3 hour long that would just play, and it would be like cups clattering and the sound of the fireplace and people occasionally laughing off in the distance. When I can't remember what it was I was trying to write, but I needed the sound of a dungeon, like a cave. Like I needed the sound of stalactites being formed. And guess what? YouTube provided.
For writing.
What are you saying?
I'm saying it's your happy place.
Your camera's still frozen, babe.
Dang it! What's the point of me making
lie.
wickedly sarcastic facial expressions?
I know. I feel like being deprived, honestly. But I'm just telling you, there is like I remember it was because I needed remember my I was writing about Clotilda and the rat that the pet, and I needed the sewers of Paris. And I needed that, and I needed that vibe of Clotilda hanging out with like 300 rats who all talk to her and that she does not talk back to. And I needed that sound of the sewers of Paris. Yes, the internet provided. I'm just here to tell you the internet will provide. It's great. YouTube provided. So that may be helpful for you, whether, if you want coffee shop sounds with rain, coffee shop sounds with the sound of somebody actually making espressos, which is pretty cool. Whatever, just try searching on YouTube. Honestly, there's been some really wonderful stuff posted. These really wonderful. So what's happening is a lot of these people make it as a portfolio, make these ambient sounds. There. Try moving around. Yeah, there. I saw it. You alive now. They're trying to make a portfolio to get a job at video game companies. So they're posting it on YouTube to show what they're capable of. And believe me, you're helping them if you play their stuff. That those views, video game companies can then see these portfolio playlists of their work and see how popular they are of like this. So you can be helpful to people while you're also vibing on their ambient sound.
And then you don't have to have the shame of your end of the year Spotify top played songs calling you out.
Where you got to come for me, Tom?
Tom comes for everyone.
Oh, I was thinking of wasn't it Kat? Was it Kat or Megan who had like they were one of the top players of the year of this?
I think it was Megan. I don't know. It was
of
Megan
this song or something,
or this band. Like she's
Yeah.
like, I apparently alone played 3% or something like that of all their stuff.
Yeah.
Carrie has posted the link for Overly Sarcastic Productions channel.
Thanks, Gary. I don't know why it only was showing me their long, user channel.
I just went into my subscription lists and copied link, and
It was refusing to acknowledge that existed for me for some reason.
I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to share with people. Also, if you're just looking for a particular ambient sound, I have probably already made a playlist out of that. Not just Dungeons and Sewers.
Not just.
Sometimes it's like Celtic fairies in the woods.
That's what Heather Alexander's music is for.
Oh, there it is.
We're both clicking. Yes, Kat's a top player of Project Shadow. Color me shocked. Do I look shocked? I'm so shocked.
I don't know who else has been doing that, but I've got a whole $6 in my bank from the music. And if you knew how little music pays per play, I don't know who else is listening to this stuff, but thank you.
Are you
Y'all-
okay?
I mean, you're like on 4 of my writing playlists, just the Pride albums, so
I feel that way about this channel. We make on average 40 to 50 cents per episode just on advertising. And I'm like, how is this happening? Because we're not getting that many thousands of viewers per penny. Some of y'all are obsessively watching and we love you. So, yes, Kat said I played in my streams a lot. I've got it open too. I admit it. Yeah, I know, Charlie. I know who's the one premium listener. Because it'll tell you how much you make off the YouTube premium users versus everyone else. It actually breaks it down. It's like, I know I only have one.
I watch too much YouTube. My life is too short for all the ads. It's like the one streaming service I don't know if I can do without.
Fair. I mean, that's fair.
Too much YouTube. It's a problem.
But I would just like to recommend, if you have a TV in your room where you write, you might really benefit from just playing ambient sounds for whatever you're writing. So I have a whole cyberpunk enormous playlist. It's like 2 days worth of ambient sounds. I have, and in that one, it includes like, what was it? Derelict silos for science. But it really does sound like an old closed down secret science lab. You know, where like the metal cabinets sometimes open up and close and they make that little sound, that hollow metal. I don't know how to explain this. But it really does sound very realistic. So you name it, I may have it if y'all need it. Just let me know. Because, yeah, I got you covered. But also just look for yourself. I have found it to add such a depth to, again, we're talking about like the senses while you write. So the sense of smell, your sense of light, of vision. So talking about lighting, and also the sounds, setting the ambient sound while you write that is appropriate for the scene or setting you're writing in. You may think, oh, I'm fine. I like the silence, or I like just the sounds of my house. And that may be absolutely true, but you may find you're getting greater enjoyment if you audition some different ambient videos on your television, or, you know, even on your laptop if you like to write on paper. Just throwing that out there as something to think about, because as writers, I think sometimes we neglect our own kind of senses when we're writing. And I really feel like it may show up in our writing as a lack of sensory information in the descriptive text. So I just wanted to share that.
Also, be experimental with the sounds that you have on. I actually have quite a few dark academia playlists that it's just like Chopin and a lot of piano with weird acoustics in the background of people like walking through libraries. That oddly enough helps me write sci-fi. It's not technically related to what I'm doing at all, but
yeah, Everett actually, who just left, helped me make a several hour-long playlist of music to murder characters too. No, it's true. And like I literally told him I need to murder characters and it's hard, so I need to feel like I'm in the mind of a killer. And I need music that feels like it's the inside of the head of a killer. And he was very helpful in finding me a lot of classical music, modern and much older classical music that truly feels like music to murder people by. Very creepy, fantastic, and highly recommend. If anybody needs playlists, let me know. But there's music for everything, y'all. We are in this very resource-rich world. Although, some people would have us think we're in a scarcity situation. No, greedy people are making it appear like scarcity, but it's not really scarcity if you just know how to access resources. For the most part, I'm not trying to say like if you're hungry, that's your own damn fault. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying like there are many resources that are free or no cost, especially if you will put up with a few ads, that may be helpful to you until you know exactly what you want. And just throwing that out there.
The NFTs are falling down. Do
you see how sad I am? I'm so sad. The tears, they flow, said the bro dude.
Oh, sorry, I can't hear the phrase artificial scarcity without thinking of so many people that should be in jail right now.
So many. So very many. Who thought they could launder easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Didn't understand the difference between actually anonymous and pseudonymous.
Mm-hmm.
So, before I forget, as a writer, are you really living your life? If you don't have a tin of goodies, where is your old lady candy? That is your reward when you wrote a whole page.
I need some Werther's original
chocolate. I'm not going to tell you how old this is. It's none of your business. But I'm eating it. It has to be cordoned off because I don't want everything to taste like mint. This is the coffee flavored Werther's.
Werther's.
Yes. Of like, where's your old lady candy? You need to be rewarded. Where's your tin? Does not contain sewing kit. Not all of them have to have sewing kits and thread, okay? Some of them can have candy.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm old enough now to have this as I can say this as an authority here.
Do you know how many of mine have tarot cards and oracle decks? I don't have a problem, I promise.
Sherry points out thanks to
God, the tarot's coming for me.
Dark folk, heartbroken witch, haunted library. Oh yes. For point of view, you're a villain. Excellent. She broke. I did. I'm the person who broke the matrix. I am apologizing for nothing. Now, here, take your Werther's. Okay? You've earned it. Now take your Werther's.
My absolute favorite music video on YouTube right now is music to do witchcraft and be gay to. I highly recommend.
I feel like it's just the line of and be gay. Like, really, are they separate? I can't tell.
A bunch of lo-fi versions of music from like Miyazaki and various other animated things that are both magical and very queer.
Oh, speaking of breaking the internet, and I can just break your mind with this thought, and I'm not joking the least. So I may have some of y'all may have heard me before say that I have this running thought in my head that fictional characters have day jobs when they're not in use. Like they still gotta keep existing. And, you know, I've had a couple. There's the girl with the dragon tattoo. There's, you know, the big nose character from Owl House. You know, the one that's the self-insert for the creator.
Oh, you're not talking about... Hold up.
Smell.
Oh, I know you're talking the tiny little redhead.
Yeah. That person exists in my town. Oh, that is delicious. But I had a new one today. I mean, yesterday.
Chocolate oat brownies.
Oh, those are wonderful.
See, look at that. Yeah, you just got to tell them to get in the kitchen.
Fresh from the oven.
I think we have that plate.
We do. You like to put smoked meat on it.
It's true. And but here's one that I don't know if qualifies as a fictional character, but I think by this point they are fictional. And that was, I had someone who looked exactly like Hayao Miyazaki open the door for me with the most southern accent you've ever heard. But I mean, same height, everything. Like, this person could do a body double and just, you know, pretend. Just don't let them speak. And I swear they're probably Caucasian. Which is why I had the hardest time with people who are like, isn't it obvious what their racial background is? No, because I've seen most humans, and it's amazing the combinations that make what. But yeah, I swear I ran into the doppelganger of Hayao Miyazaki. Yeah.
Tanella Noza.
There's a person who works in town that...
And this is actually supposed to be, I think, what Dana Terrace's writing partner? I think so. Because we saw something once where she was Dina Terrace or one of her other, like, not necessarily writing partner, but somebody else in her little writing friend circle that they did an insert of.
But yeah, like,
and the friend was the one who defined this of like, I just want red hair and a big nose, tiny. I have no body. It's just a head with legs and arms. And they made this character. Like, this was what she designed.
I love the Owl House so much.
Sherry says, my favorite line from a book, I wouldn't dance naked at midnight. It's cold. If I were to dance naked, I would do it at noon, said in a petulant tone by an old mad scientist. So, I think, like, it's important to, like, for writers, we need to think about our own senses when we're writing and craft our own atmosphere, our own environment when we're writing. And yes, that includes to have your own tiny gold hoard. How can you write about, like, the perspective of a dragon without a tiny hoard of gold, y'all? How does that work?
What if you hoard other things?
Books?
Do I need to post the entire set of, you know, alternate hoards with adorable, cute little dragons on it?
Is that your hoard? Is it all stickers? Like, I believe it.
Yes.
I mean, someone
It
here...
used to be scrapbook stickers, now it's planner stickers.
Give it time. I am sure someone in our little group has an obnoxiously sized, you know, collection of washi tape.
I have a couple people I would think have much larger collections than they would necessarily want to admit to. Absolutely. Oh, what
Remember,
is that?
it's not obscene till you feel like hiding it.
What's that? Show us your tape. Show us your tape. Yes. Very nice.
This is just what I set aside for when I'm doing my pen pal letters.
This is just
a good
within
start.
arm reach. This is not my whole collection. And speaking of, I don't necessarily need to talk about my yarn hoard. It's fine. It's fine. And it's not out of control.
My yarn hoard is all back at my mom, so I haven't been able to increase on it.
You do need to make action-adventure comics about your gay yarn, though.
It is very gay, isn't it? It's just boxes and boxes of gay yarn. And, you know, they're all just there in the box rubbing on each other, y'all. They're in little gay pileups. It's true. Just getting gayer by the day.
Although I've realized, like, since we've now done at least 2, if not 3 different episodes on this,
Mm-hmm.
Probably should just start making some Discord channels so we can just start keeping an active list of here's all the books we all like to talk about.
Like writing books versus writing software versus
Podcast, YouTube.
YouTube channels, Twitch channels. That
Yeah.
like here. Like the catalog would be enormous. We'll have to start thinking about structure. As a librarian, I'm here to say, this is me. You're now talking cataloging. And that means we have to think about the taxonomy of structure. Otherwise, it's just chaos and you can't find it. And what was the point of it other than you just want to do a mind dump? Which that's fine. But, you know.
We'll say, at a certain point, let's just write, while this is a small, tiny library of thoughts, we'll just, make a few lists that people can just go through easily. And then as we work at trying to find software and websites that can handle a more nuanced database.
Yeah. I guess that's really, of course, oh my God, we are network administrator. Oh my God. You can take the writer out of the network, but you can't take the network out of the writer. Once the network administrator, always one. Because remember, that's what I was doing before I couldn't handle the sexism anymore in my management information systems department at university. I just could not handle it when it was also the professor. It was just too much.
But I just say, we've got a Discord now that we're showing. Yeah. Let's make at least something that is, there's a chance people can find it.
Well, Tom, you have all the rights. So,
I've already opened the channels.
I was about to say Tom and Charlie and Kat have all the rights. So I don't know what's stopping y'all.
I mean,
and I can give Carrie all the right. I can, you name it, and you're getting rights, and you're getting rights. Who wants rights?
All right, Oprah.
The Supreme Court may take them away, but I can give them. Mad with power.
But yeah, it's like, I'm just going to put them under information for now, because to me, that's what these all are. These are just for information. These are just for edification. But it is what was that? I know vaguely, so might as well make it, since they're common enough resources. There's stuff we talk about, and at least then people can comment in there of, hey, who's read this or who's used this? I got some questions.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, because we've definitely gotten more than enough YouTube links to just make its own separate little list of YouTube resources for writers.
Good point. Yeah, because I've every YouTube link somebody has shared that I wasn't already subscribed to, I've now subscribed to, but it can be a useful way to go re-access it when it's like, hold up, what was that one? I don't remember.
Yeah, because my subscribed list on YouTube is too long for me sometimes to scroll through and to recognize immediately. It's going to take a while.
Agreed. So, okay. So here we are. New structuring. I think that it sounds like we're pretty much wrapping up for the day. Unless anybody can think of more resources to share in the twilight moments. Does anyone have final thoughts about resources in general or in specific?
Don't be afraid to ask. I think this is the most neglected resource that we have in the community is people.
But Charlie, people don't like to ask. That's a known thing about human psychology. People would rather fall on a sword than ask questions.
This is a common thing for characters to do.
I know, it's like this fatal flaw thing, isn't it, in humans? We don't want to ask. Versus dogs. Dogs will be happy to please come help. I have somebody in a well I need you to come attend to.
You said that and my dog ran up to me. I was like, who's in a well?
Yeah, see? Because doggies are happy to be helpful, but also happy to ask questions. They know. How do we get over the not wanting to ask questions?
Kill your shame.
Good luck.
I think that's something writers should do. I mean, I distinctly remember the day my shame died. It was a pretty day. It was a wonderful day. I have embarrassed everybody else in my life since. Because
Maybe they gave us the solution. Burn it with fire.
Burn it with fire. I like this.
Yeah.
Let us take our shame dragons and tie them to something and set them on fire.
Yeah, just like the Protestants wanted to do with all the other monsters. They gave us the answer.
Oh, I've thought of like the one that'll get the most like everyone going, don't do that. I just realized what channel we need. The author, writer, creator links. Can we just get a central one of like, yeah, because sometimes it's hard to remember, like, how do I find Charlie's World Anvil? Well, why don't I just post all of these different sets we have for all of our different writer friends? What are all the books they've written that have and stories they put out that are published?
You know, nobody's ever going to ever come back to our Discord server now. This is how you like magnetic repulsion. This is how you repulse a writer.
They need to go hide it under its own little listing.
Bury it at the bottom of the Discord server so
Yes.
only the curious find it.
You know, which books / magazines, you know, Laura's got several, I think, coming out.
I cannot keep up with all of the anthologies that Laura is in. And I am impressed that she can. I'm assuming there is a spreadsheet or a table somewhere.
Good
But yeah,
point.
sometimes it's hard to remember, like, what are all the different things? Like, I know they've done something. What was it?
That's the real seal. Permanent.
Carrie, do you have any final thoughts? Secret tools? Stickers. It's what make Carrie dragons happy.
I don't use it myself, but I've heard other people say that they outline using note cards, like index cards,
Mm-hmm.
and then put them up on like a cork board or one of those like science fair trifold boards.
Mm-hmm.
I was that person until Angry Cat.
Yeah, cats. They're like children.
Yeah, you.
Are you talking about moi and
I'm
Marcel?
innocent. I'm entirely innocent.
Almost
There's no
sounded
An
video.
like you went
absolute
me.
joy to be around. Meow meow.
Thou doth protest too much.
Yeah, there's tons of resources that like are low cost to no cost. So I think like for me, I guess one of my final thoughts is probably as somebody who writes, somebody who wants to feel that desire to be creative, whenever you hit a roadblock or a glass ceiling that you're like, oh, I can't get around this and I don't have a way through, ask yourself, is this actually a real roadblock or a glass ceiling? Or is this something that you're telling yourself so you don't have to write? Because the ideal approach probably would be to keep writing while you try to find extra resources to help you. But I only say that as somebody who does that frequently for myself. Oh gosh, let me tell you, I love to find reasons I can't write right now. Oh my gosh, I'm so good at it. It's my real talent. I know, I've had so much practice. So anytime you think I need more resources, I don't have the resources I need, is to ask yourself if this is just a way to avoid doing it, so at least you know. Also, what I do tend to sing to myself is this old childhood song. So high, can't get over it, so low. Can't get under it, so wide. Can't get round it, so we walked right through the door. And there's a lot more verses, I think. But like to remind myself that, maybe you need to just go find the door. Maybe you just need to think about the problem in a different way, and you'll find the resources you need to deal with the problem. And in the meantime, just keep writing. Just keep writing. When you don't know what to do, just keep writing. When you feel like crap, just keep writing. When the world is out to get you and you don't know what tomorrow will bring, just keep writing.
Did you do this?
It won't save you, but in its own weird way,
Now
it
I'm
will
saying
help
that
you.
in like the Dory sing song.
Just keep
Oh, yeah.
writing.
Just keep writing.
Writing. Just keep. Yeah. It won't save you, but it may buy you enough time to figure out a solution. I don't know. I just say that as somebody who writing is my solace. So the worst thing I can do for me is to stop writing, like to truly stop making stories. So sometimes I don't really write them down. I just tell them to Tom, or I tell them to Carrie or Charlie, or anyone who will listen. So we do that backstage sometimes. They have to listen to my stories. But it's my way of throwing out the life preserver to myself. So I guess that's my final thought. Next week's episode is going to be a wild one. Because we're going to talk about writing enhancements. This is one of Tom's pitches. So often readers who really enjoy a story, when the story is over, they don't want to leave that world. And writers can offer other ways for readers to help stay in that world a little while longer. Whether we're talking about scavenger hunts, recipes, playlists. Y'all help me here. This is not my forte.
What was that word, Charlie? Filking? I think.
Oh, Filking.
Filking. I know, it sounds really dirty and like
Are
something
you
you go to
saying
jail for.
bilking, like bilking somebody
No,
for all their work?
Filk.
Oh, filking.
Filking. Yes.
Filking
Oh, that
became
really
a
does
word
sound
because
naughty.
in the 1950s they were going to have a folk sing, and they typoed it, and the typo has stuck now ever since.
Okay. So go on, y'all. Anybody?
That's creating songs and music associated with it.
Poems.
Yeah.
Art.
Hey, look up the music of Eben Brooks, who is on YouTube. Wonderful folk singer. Kathy Sands, Kathy Marr. And there are quite a few really good ones. Voltaire, for some reason beyond my understanding, the wonderful goth monster that he is, released an entire album of Star Trek folk because he got bored and did so.
The ones on Vulcan were just never entirely gotten over that one.
What is sung or performed by the network of people who originally gathered to sing at science fiction or fantasy conventions? Folk music. Yep. I would not believe it if I had not heard it.
Yep, I will see you guys in Discord. I gotta go help with bedtime.
Okay.
I got introduced to it because of all things Firefly fandom.
Malsong. If you've not heard Malsong by Escape Key, I believe were the originators of that, where they took the Firefly theme song, made it into the chorus for the song, and wrote surrounding lyrics. Great track.
So it sounds like it's sometimes writing enhancements can be like extra world building things.
Mm-hmm.
Also, my entire business model is basically this now, because like I'm making tabletop role-playing games and all manner of other stuff that can help keep people in the world.
What I used to do as a very bored middle school and teenager was I used to make crossword puzzles based on, originally it was science class glossary words, but then it was like locations and character names from books I was reading. Like one crossword puzzle would be solely devoted to one book and things, or quotes and so on. Would that be something like you would consider writing enhancements?
Mm-hmm.
So things you do out of desperation to not be insane? That's me. Yeah. All of that counts.
I mean, everything people do around anime are enhancements. Cosplaying, making interactive objects. Essentially trying to understand the media that you enjoy so much on a deeper level.
Seeding things for theory crafting. There's entire communities dedicated to theory crafting in general and specific fandoms. It's astounding.
And so you all will be talking about it and helping us figure out how to do it ourselves, because we don't know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. How not to...
There are resources for this, I hope.
A few. And also, learn from others' mistakes. How to address the neurodivergence in the world, who may not note the obvious tools you tried to put in there to help decode things, like in a certain...
Why are you coming for me this way? How dare?
Mostly because of the way you talk about it and your difficulty with it, versus Laura's, wasn't it obvious?
It was not.
And essentially addressing just because something makes logic to you, unless you lead extra details, it is not necessarily logical to another person. So
in my defense,
be considerate.
In my defense, the copy of Artemis Fowl that I had bought was actually missing the page in the very front that tells you this is how to decode. Somebody had ripped it out, but they'd ripped it out really close, and I couldn't even tell it was missing. And since it was before the pages are numbered, there was no clue. I did not know, and so I was driven mad by this book and had a hate of a lot of the book, because there was no supplementary or even a reference to it elsewhere, so I didn't know it was missing, and I just thought I was supposed to figure it out on my own.
And again, there is a mistake on the writer and publisher's part, that it is not referenced anywhere else. It's not versus... I hate to use this example because it's an odd one. People may find, but how Judaism has understood in some ways that the only way to really get data across is you need to do it multiple times. And I was telling Gloria, I came across this communications class someone gave on how to be a more effective communicator, and I swear, if you don't look at this person, they sound and act exactly like Bob Newhart. So it's Bob Newhart's Guide to More Effective Communication. But one thing he references is, at any given moment, even in a active audience, 20% of your audience is zoned out for different reasons. 20% of your audience is not storing the words you're saying right then. And that's why we say everything. We come back to it 3 times, because by 3 times, you've now reached about 96% of your audience. That's the real reason for the rule of 3 when you're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Is because just because you see even all their eyes looking at you does not mean everyone's storing what you say. So you come back 3 different ways, and that's what you see in Jewish writing. That's what you see in a lot of writing, especially for neurodivergent. And when the writing is important, we put the information in 3 different places in 3 different ways, so we'll catch everyone. This one for making a young adult, a story for tweens, a book, and it's literally only in one location at the very beginning.
And there's no reference to it, not even a small mini version of the diagram somewhere in the book, so I'd know, wait, let me look with a magnifying glass and I could actually read it. There was no reference to it, so I didn't know it was missing.
And so again, this is very ineffective, poor way of doing this. So we will talk about how do you make these writing enhancements actually enjoyable versus aggravating? Do not make your additional tools and things for fun make people turned off.
Like if you're going to put in your book a reference to your scavenger hunt, also put a reference in the book to it's also available on my website. Here's the website link. Go to my website. In case, like, for whatever reason you don't have this in the book, or it didn't print right, or it glitched, go to my website. There's a scavenger hunt. Like something like that, where you have like redundancy. Yes, it drove me insane.
I once read a professionally published book in the 90s that was a fantasy mystery book, and I was like, oh, that sounds fascinating. Did not realize till I got to the end that if you thought you figured it out, you were supposed to send your answer to a P.O. box, and they would simply send a response as to whether or not you were right. There was no way to actually find out what happened. Apparently, the first so many people that got the thing right won prizes or something. I don't know.
Yeah, this was back in the late 70s, early 80s when the prize things were really big.
Yeah, that's not a good way to do it.
No. But also, like, recipes. We had a one of those murder mystery books, cozy mysteries, with a recipe in it. It has something to do with, like, lemon bars or something. Anyway, at some point, a patron tore the page out that had the lemon bar recipe. And so there's references to it in the writer's notes, the author's notes. And a patron brought back the book and said there's a page missing, and it supposedly, I think it has the recipe in it. Can you print out the recipe for me, or find the recipe for me? So the first thing I do is I go to the author page, the author website, to look for this lemon bar recipe from a book that's like 17 years old, and it is not on their website. And there I am having to search the internet. Did anybody post this writer's lemon bar recipe? Because this woman is a very insistent. Let me find it. Y'all, do you know what I had to do to solve this patron's problem? I had to contact 6 different library systems in Mississippi and ask, do you have this copy? And does it have the lemon bar recipe? And if so, can you photocopy it and fax it or email it to me? And of the 6 library systems, 4 of the library systems, the recipe had been torn out of their book, their copy too. And one of them was like, no, we don't do that. We're not going to photocopy it and mail it or fax it to you, even though it would cost them nothing. I could tell you some of the things about this library system, whatever. The other one, I was like, please, 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 I love you. I'll promise I'll lend you other books. And they're like, for you, Glory, anything. And then they faxed it. And you better believe we made photocopies, and every branch got a copy, laminated. And then we put a note, a little sticky in the book that said, if you're looking for the recipe, come to the front desk and tell them you want the lemon bar recipe. So, again, redundancy would have been very nice. I also did, by the way, write to the author and their publisher about this oversight. It took them 2 years, but they finally put the recipe up on the website. So anyhow, yes, you didn't know you need this episode, but we're doing it next Monday on how to enhance the reading experience for your readers. They're going to love you for it. And it's not that much trouble. It's super fun.
Or at least they'll understand why it takes so long between books, because this is all the stuff that I've been doing. Why not you see it too?
Sure. It's going to be delightful. You're going to love it. You're absolutely going to enjoy it. Can't wait for next Monday. Be sure to like and subscribe, share this, rewatch it. The things. I don't know how to be a good channel person.
Like and subscribe, fam.
Like and subscribe. Is it? No. What is?
I don't know. Everybody seems to have a different hand gesture, but it's like,
is it the
it's
snail?
almost I love you. It's almost the I love you, but like one finger's like almost broken or something.
Maybe it's
I don't
the
know. It's
snail.
like,
The snail. I'm looking for okay.
For friends.
Looking for friends and okay. We hope you've had a good time. If you are still watching, get something to eat. Click like.
And for everyone who
Ring the bell.
actually, you know, knows American Sign Language, yeah, I know what I did. That's the nicest way to say it.
I cannot help these jokers, okay? I'm not responsible for them. Anyway, we're going to go to our Discord server in the voice chat. If you'd like to hang out, we'd absolutely love to hang out with you. I'm going to play a game with, somebody else's husband. And, yes, it's totally consensual. And you could do whatever. You could write, you could read, you could eat, you could do your thing. If you don't have a link to our Discord server, please message us and we'll be happy to send you an invite. Also, if you see anybody here, they could also send you an invite. Like, it's cool. Anyhow, we're going to leave you. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye-bye.